I've heard it for years. Like, oh, so and so is just. I'm like, yeah, you met him at an autograph signing, and there's 150 people behind you. It's raining. They've got to get back and fix the car they just totaled.
They're thinking about the thousands of dollars they just left on track.
If anyone questions if the C5, C6 Corvette's the best drift chassis, look what Luke's doing.
Have you ever gotten to drive any of them yourself?
Long time ago. That's not where my heart is.
Yeah.
Any event that I watch that I'm not attending, I go, not how I would have done it. You know, like, I can't help it, dude. I always remind drivers, like, you're not watching laps. Driver might think you're killing it. They might be 3 feet off of his zone. They don't even know it. If you're not contributing in some way,
it'll eat you alive.
It'll chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
One to choose from, Midwest. That's the foundation. It's ground zero for grid life, dude. It's the full experience. Leave this in. Greg needs to know I'm not shaken by this question. He witnessed it once and lost his mind.
If you could do MDU over again, what would you do differently, and what set MDU apart from other Pro-Am series?
Look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been.
Welcome back to the #1 Drift podcast on YouTube. I am Dawson, and we have
Next one.
Hell yeah, most of you guys, I'm sure, recognize him. I appreciate you coming down.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, of course. But before we get into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So look below the video. If that button is red, go ahead and click it and hit that bell notification too, so you're updated with every episode. But don't forget, if you want to be highlighted on the outro, go ahead and make a reel of your car, post it on Instagram, and tag me. The one with the most likes at the end of the week will get basically the spotlight of the outro. So do that. And that's pretty much all I got for the intro. So if you want to kind of introduce yourself, what you drive, where you came from,
For sure.
what got you into cars, stuff like that.
So yeah, Nick Swann. And I'm an event coordinator, short version of it, event coordinator. It all revolves.
Probably one of the most respected in the industry. I would say.
Thank you. I mean, I've been doing it. I mean, there's plenty of guys, plenty of people that have been doing it as long, if not longer. But yeah, I mean, it's been a long, fun road. But I think for about 16 years, I've been coordinating events to some degree. Yeah, originally from not far from here, Nashville, born and raised, currently living in Bowling Green, Kentucky, working for Holly full time on their events team. Been there for about a year and a half. So doing that. And then along the way, there's been plenty of, other event series and brands that I've worked with, coordinating events starting in the Midwest. That started out with Drift Indy, that turned into Midwest Drift Union. And
He'll love on you.
And then that actually opened the door when I was with Drift Indy and MDU. That opened the door for Holly LS Fest. Nice, I've been with them since their second year doing it, and I believe that puts me on like year 12 or 13, which turned into LS Fest West, and now LS Fest Texas, Ford Fest. Of course, you were just at. Yeah. You were at LS Fest as well too.
Yeah,
so
that was about.
Last couple of those. And yeah, I mean, just a lot of odds and ends stuff along the way. Currently one of the newest, probably one of the funnest projects I've been included with is LC's World Tour. Been doing invitationals with him and his team down in Orlando every winter. So that that birthed the World Tour this year. So haven't done every stop. I did Jersey, which was round 1, and we just came off Canada, which was round 3. They did Ireland in between, and they're about to head out to Australia.
Oh yeah,
in a couple of weeks.
I'm excited to see that.
But same. I think Australia receives events like that really, really well. But I'll be at Laguna Seca with Grid Life, which is another brand that I've been working with since 2016. I believe was my first year with them. And it'll be our first time at Laguna Seca, so that's going to be a pretty gnarly one. Another bucket list track. This season's been a lot of cool, like drift bingo card.
Yeah. Well, speaking of this season, you just like the past few weeks, you've been nonstop. It's been like how are you just like feeling after all of that?
So
the traveling has been crazy.
Yesterday was my first day of nothing, and
yeah,
dude, I'm not real sure. Probably I mean, even for the past 2 or 3 months, and this isn't like a woe is me thing because I mean, you and I both know plenty of people that do just as much, if not more.
Oh, God, yeah.
But it was a pretty gnarly couple months for me. But yeah, yesterday was a solid like unplug, like disconnect, just like recharge day.
Gotta take advantage of that.
Pretty much like, I mean, right off the rip, like 4 or 5 in a row, LS Fest, which was followed by Mo Party, a Holly event. No drifting, but I mean, being on the events team at Holly full time, so that was another event weekend for me. It was, as event weekends goes, it was a chill one, but still, nonetheless.
Yeah, still
then yeah, still work, and then followed by World Tour Canada with LZ, and then I got sick there, and that's one of the first times I've had to run track with like the fever and the shakes. I don't know what it was. I think I mean, it could have been that. It could have been just lack of rest or whatever it was, but it hit me hard.
Combination of all.
Dude, it was tough to like hunker down and get that one done, but I'm glad I did. It was a really, really fun event. And then again, last weekend was Ford Fest. So yeah, chilling this weekend with you, which was sick. Thanks for the invite. And then I think next weekend I'm hanging out too, and then it's off to, like I said, Laguna Seca, and there's a few more things on the calendar before the end of the year, but it's kind of starting to taper off slowly.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, what's kind of your opinion on the LZ World Tour? Because me personally, I love what it's doing. Yeah. I think it's the proper way to hold like drifting live streams and really kind of host an event. Keeps people engaged. It seems very well.
It does. It certainly does that. I mean, honestly, I can't say enough great stuff about it. And it's no credit to me. Like it's such a dream team. And honestly, an absolute like blessing and privilege to work with those guys. I think it was last winter. No, I'm sorry. It was the winter before. It was the Invitational before last year. So 21, I believe, was the first time Drift Games came over to help coordinate and stream and announce the Invitational, and that was my first time working with them, first time meeting them.
Yeah.
And it was, and I'm not saying this like tough guy, but like I never get nervous. I don't get nervous when I do events. Like even if they're new, I don't really get nervous. I was nervous for that one.
Those events are on a different level.
Dude,
so
it really is.
I'm sure.
It really is. And it wasn't like a stardom thing. It was more like they're very particular, and I am too. And I mean, like, not that my system or my processes were nearly as like developed or as in depth as theirs, but like, for instance, like my best friend, like, and like I would call him like almost like an event partner of mine is Pat Gooden. Pat and I try to do everything together, and he's so good at what he does, and him and I communicate so well, and we've gotten to a point where we kind of like compartmentalize certain parts of events where I'm like, Pat's got this and I've got this, so I don't have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
So we go into that event with that same mentality, and as soon as we get there, we meet the team, but specifically Kian of Drift Games, and Kian's like, he's like the producer. I mean, he's like the director of the show. And while normally Pat and I would be on like comms together, like radios together, and we have a very dialed way of like communicating, Kian's like, no, I'm like, Swann, I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah. And
tell you whatever Pat needs. And Pat, I'm going to talk to Swann and tell you whatever he needs. And I'm going to let y'all know. And we were like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was never like, who is this guy? Like he's great about the way he like teed it up. Like he wasn't like a dick about it, but it was just different. But I think Pat and I were both like, let's give it a shot. Like
of course,
they've built such a great brand and a great production for themselves. So, but yeah, Drift Games, all those guys.
I've talked to Dave myself.
Dude, Dave is an angel.
He seems really cool.
Dave's such a great guy.
I'm excited to interview him one day.
Such a professional, but there's a lot of professionals in our line of work now. He's got the heart, dude. Like those dudes.
It seems like it.
Everybody that I've met from the Drift Games team loves drifting.
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up like harping on that a few times during this, loving
Well,
drifting.
it shows what little we know about drifting in other countries and stuff too.
True.
Like we think very highly of the scene here,
Right.
But I mean, dude, from what I've seen on YouTube in
wild.
Ireland,
it's wild,
bro.
And
they got way more on us.
And coming off Poland, that event they just did, with Drift Masters, that was. I don't often get FOMO. Like I'm not like, oh, I wish I could have been there. I saw that and I go, God, not even to the point where I was like, oh, I wish I could have run that event. I just wanted that. It was history. It was historical. And there's so much that that maybe the stream didn't capture. There's so many little things about that event that had to fall into place or that were done to make sure it happened. And seeing it at face value, I was already blown away. And then talking to Dave and Kian and Adam and Josh and the team while we were in Canada, I learned so much more about like what it took out of them as well, to run that event. And it's just,
I'm sure it's a lot.
It's wild, man.
I mean, what caught me was the 48 hours setup time and 24-hour cleanup time.
Yeah.
I was, how?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Stadium stuff, and the team, dude. It was, and it wasn't even just like them. It wasn't just like our kind of people. I mean, it was like all sorts of help was brought in to pull it, like any major professional sporting event. You know? Dude, the president of Poland was
like a fucking anthill in there.
The president of Poland was there.
No way.
Yeah, like made it like did a thing.
Oh my god,
it's nuts, dude. Well, I think one of the cool things about Europe and something that I think we're really jaded on here in America is like there's so many different countries represented.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of national pride. Like everyone wants to see their country represented well, and almost like an F1 crowd or like a soccer crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like you see, I mean, it's international and there's a lot of pride, on the line, I guess, but you get that support from your people. So it's just different there. I mean, and I don't speak from experience yet. I would love to be a part of one day, but it's just, getting to know those guys better and hearing their stories and, spending time with them, like it's showing me and teaching me like so much more. But at the same time, I don't think I know that they have, the same appreciation for a lot of the ways that we do things. And it's cool to kind of like get back on track with the world tour. Like it's cool to, for those worlds to collide.
Oh yeah.
For them to bring what they do to the table, to, drivers and a community for the most part, at least when, Jersey and Canada as well, that are used to the way we do things in North America.
It's magical.
It was
cool.
All Jersey was rad.
The countries collide.
Jersey was rad. I think Canada was, Canada was special to me specifically for a couple of reasons, but I think, even though Toronto is, I kept saying it's like Ohio on the metric system. Like it doesn't feel like you're out of country. It doesn't. Like it didn't feel like I was out of the country. But dude, they were so the spectators, the fans, and even like local drivers and their teams, they were so like grateful and thankful that we were there. To bring an event of that stature and a production of that size and quality to their local track. And it was That's cool because even though it was still close to home, I got this feeling of like gratitude that is kind of lost in American drifting.
Yeah.
So, because we're jaded, and it's okay. I think it's okay to get jaded.
Yeah.
It's almost like inevitable at some point.
Well, of course.
You know what I mean? You get desensitized. And
I think I've always blamed it on the fact that there's so many like events, like there's so much to do with drifting now that we kind of have to pick and choose, and we're a little bit spoiled.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where that comes from originally, when people start getting diluted with all of it.
Yeah. So that's also where we find ourselves like, I don't know, like spreading ourselves too thin. I mean, I think it's been one of the busiest years for everyone. Just because of that, with any given weekend, there's an event somewhere in the country. And if you're available and you're eager enough and willing, like you can be a part of those events. And dude, after a while, you're just smoked. You're just exhausted, and it starts to lose that shine. It starts to lose that shimmer a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, the World Tour is sick. I think it's doing a lot for competitive drifting. I think that it kind of harps back to a lot of things that we all still love but miss about drifting. It's not like, it's not like a bunch of Corollas and SR20s and stuff like that. I mean, there are those things, but it's not like purist grassroots to the point where it's the cars that make it, because there are some wild cars there.
There's still the style aspect, but it's more much towards style, the community.
And
I feel like
the way that the event is structured is, yes, it's a competition. Yes, there are prizes on the line, and drivers always want to win. But there's this added expression to it, where it's like, do you want to try this? And they're like, yeah, let's do this. Or I'll have drivers be like, hey, can I do this? And I'll radio Kean or whoever, or Dave, and be like, can we do this? And they're like, yeah, let's do that.
I don't see why not.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ireland, dude, like that track flowed to where they would finish their run and they just start, doing burnouts.
Yeah.
Rodeo donuts and stuff together. And a lot of that gets lost on other levels of competitive drifting.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed as far as that goes was, like you said, the burnouts at the end of every lap. They still incorporated that in Canada. You had to drive a little bit further to get to that point in front of the crowd, but I love that they still kept that, because that not only gives the crowd something to occupy them, but it gives you time to reset.
Sure.
Gives you time to get the next cars in line ready to go, so that whenever that camera pans, you're ready to go and show's still in action.
And that's another thing that Drift Games is so good at, dude. There's minimal downtime on their stream during their events. They run such a tight ship and such a tight schedule that, just like you said, at Canada, they'd finished the second run. The drivers were instructed to come back to the start line, drive right by me, go in front of the crowd for the winners, and as soon as they would pass, the next pair would be in the burnout box. And so by the time they're finishing their burnouts, and I staged the follow car, so both cars are done, I look to my right and I see those two cars clear. So it's almost like clockwork. And again, that's credit to Drift Games and specifically Kean for the first, and you can knowing this, you can almost go back and watch it in the first three battles of the Last Chance 16, which is the first bracket we do on Saturday. There might be a little bit of lag between the battles because we're learning that groove.
Yeah, it's just like seat time. I mean, you're gonna have to repeat the process over and over again to iron out the fine details and get the timing perfect. So, and
by the second or third one, dude, we're dialed. It's just move. And come Sunday, which is the main top 16. I mean, it's just again, it's clockwork. It's really cool to work with those guys. And I think that's another cool thing that they're doing with that event is that Last Chance 16. And so for anybody that's watching that doesn't understand how that works, is traditional qualifying, 2 laps, right? And then the top 13 drivers are locked for Sunday's main event. Yeah. And the remaining drivers, the remaining 16 drivers, the next 16, compete in a bracket of their own, and the podium finishers get the 3 vacant spots in the main event 16. So we qualify on, we qualify on Saturday, and then those bottom 16 compete on Saturday, and then that's it for Saturday. That podium, they fill up those last 3 spots, and the Sunday is the top 16. So, and before top 16 on Sunday, they do fantasy battles, which is another, for drivers that might not make it into, that might qualify bottom 16 and then go out in the first or second round. They don't move on to the Sunday show. There's still opportunity for them to drive on Sunday because they set up somewhere 6 to 8 fantasy battles, and we have a WhatsApp with all the drivers and the crew, and people call each other out in there. And so, and then, you know, Kian and Dave were in there making notes and organizing the fantasy battles. Cause it's like, dude, Nate Hamilton, Brian Hoplamasian, that's a fantasy battle I've seen twice now because they're such similar cars. And those dudes are both like showmen. So they always put on a great show and they drive well together. So it's just fun stuff. And it's just bragging rights.
I love the fantasy battles. I think that's the best part of the event, in my opinion.
I think they debuted that at the Invitational a couple of years ago, and it was pretty loose. We were just like, everybody just line up and start driving against each other, and it just looked like practice. So we put some structure to it, and it's gotten to be really, really cool. And I think a lot of people are getting involved with it online and commenting what they want to see and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, it helps with the online presence for sure.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess tell me how did like the Holly events from the past couple weeks, did they go how you expected them to? Or did you have any hiccups or anything?
I mean, there's always hiccups. There's always obstacles. I mean, because it's freshest on my mind. Ford Fest, Saturday night, we had a car lose a motor towards the end of the night on Saturday, which Saturday night is always, we aim for it to be like the main session.
Yeah.
This year, Vaughn and Chelsea only drove with us on Saturday. Normally, in the past, they've been there all weekend. So Saturday was their day driving with us. So I think the majority of the crowd is always there Saturday night. And it was a great session. And even the car that lost the motor, like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, that's an occupational hazard.
Yeah.
And he's driven that car hard on that same motor for years. So it was kind of a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
But he lost that motor. It oiled down the first outer zone, the bank that we were talking about before we started recording. And I mean, I don't know, there's always kind of like a silver lining or like a way to get around it. Fortunately, Ford Fest isn't a competition. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. Yeah. We just coned off the oil, told them to slowly drive around, like underneath the oil spill, and then just reinitiate and finish their laps. It was the last 30 minutes. So, no, that didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
But
figured it out fairly well, though.
Yeah, for sure.
And Vaughn, he on one of his laps, he still drifted the bank anyways.
Dude, and that's the thing is, like, you just have to let him. You know?
Oh yeah, as soon as he did it, I looked over at you and you just sat there and you just kept watching. I was like, yeah, I mean, what can you do?
Because I know the conversation Vaughn and I just had, and Vaughn's like, it's fine. I go, I know it's fine. Like, it's fine. Do that. The other 20 or 30 drivers who just heard me tell them don't drive the bank, saw Vaughn drive the bank, and of those 20 or 30, probably 15 of them are like, I can do that. No. So I have to look back at these guys and hope they're looking at me, and I go, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do what he just did. And I only have my like freestyle sign language to tell these guys where I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, I will say though, I picked up on some of your sign language.
Yeah.
It's pretty because I know one of your big things is communication when it comes to events.
Absolutely.
So I looked over one time and I can't remember who was at the line, but their car died at the line or something and they needed a tow. And you looked over, pointed at a golf cart, and you went like that. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, how the fuck?
Yeah.
That's a smart ass way to just tell some. That way you ain't got a radio, and they just know instantly.
And that kind of goes back to I'm just in general. I've become very like particular and specific about how I operate, and I can't stand like radio banter and small talk. Yeah. Also because I hate wearing a headset on track. So anytime there's noise on the radio, I hold track for a second to listen. And if it's not for me, I get pissed. I'm like, stop talking on the radio unless you need me. So I've learned to communicate certain things without having to use the radio. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like stuff that develops over time. I try to remember to tell drivers, like, it's like a freestyle sign language. Like there are like some things that you'll see me do every event. And then there's some things where I have to like improvise during the event. So I have to think like, what's the easiest way to understand what I'm trying to express? Yeah. I forget sometimes that people can't see my eyes when I'm wearing sunglasses because I'll be looking at a driver.
Dude, yeah.
I'll be looking at a driver, like staring at them in their eyes, and I'm trying to get their attention, and they're looking at me, but they don't realize I'm talking to them. And I'm like, and I get so frustrated, but it's my fault. Like I you know.
What's the most random I guess, like hand signal you've had to
dude,
come up with on the spot?
I couldn't even guess it. A lot of times if I have to, okay, so this happened with Nate in Canada. But if we're at like more of like a exhibition or like freestyle event,
Yeah.
such as like practice at the World Tour or Ford Fest, something like that. And once everybody's like grooving, you'll end up like kind of naturally, some of the drivers will actually like fall in line next to someone they want to like tandem with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which that might happen 2, 3, 4 rows back. So that leaves me with, and so that driver will hang back, which leaves me with like a bunch of solo runs.
Yeah.
And at an event like the World Tour where no one needs solo runs.
Yeah, no.
And no one ever wants to watch solo runs. So I'm trying to like pair cars up. But I have to like hold cars to get, and then like and that was the thing, was like there in Canada, there were 2 cars that were trying to drive together. And then the row behind them, 2 cars driving together, and the row behind them. So there's 3 rows of cars driving together. But I had a car on the start line that I needed
didn't have it.
I needed a lead car, I think. So I did 3 rows back was Nate in the lead lane. So I did 3 rows back. Nate pointed at him, and then Nate.
Oh, dude, I'd be confused too. What do you mean?
But Nate is so good though. Nate's always, and I tell drivers like, hey, when you're on track, when you get on track, first off, be ready to drive, have your safety gear and all your equipment ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, watch me. Like, I don't care how far back in line you are, watch me. At least like periodically check in, check with me. And Nate's so great about that. And I did, 3 rows back. I needed a car, and I pointed at Nate, and Nate kind of like, he could tell he goes, that, and I go, yeah. And so he started to come around, but also like the other 6, 7 cars in front of him might not have known who I was talking to. So it's kind of a roll of the dice, because that happens a lot. And that's something that I forget. And also the drivers forget. I don't expect the drivers to know this, because when the drivers are in their car, all they see is me. Yeah. So if they need to talk, they're only talking to me. Mm. But I'm looking at, 20 to 50 or 60 cars at a time. So if I'm trying to communicate to 1, 2, or 3 that are further back, it's tough to say what I need to say without distracting the drivers that are closest to me. So it's
I'm sure that gets annoying.
It does. It gets annoying, but it's more or less, it's kind of like stressful for me, because I try to communicate so well. And the number one goal that I have in that position on track is, when drivers leave the start line, they're not worried about anything but driving. Mm-hmm. I want drivers to feel safe. I want them to trust the track and to trust me, and to know that once I send them, the track's clear. If it's a random tandem, they can trust who they're driving with. So often I'll stage a lead and follow that maybe the follow car is like, no, and I go, no, you're good for it. Yeah. Like, no, like, it's fine. Just give a gap, or something like that. And that warms them up. And then 2 or 3 laps later, they're jamming with everybody.
Hell yeah. Give them a little bit of courage.
Yeah, absolutely. And let them know, like, no, like, you're doing better than you think. Yeah. And then the lead driver, because that's also got to be kind of shaky for the lead driver, right? If I say, if I ask they want to go tandem, one of the cars says no, and I convince them, then the other car's like, and I go, no, they're good for it. There's just so many little like hand signals. And
well, it helps because like you're outside the car, you get to see all the minor little mistakes and stuff that they're making throughout the entire day. Yeah, there's some drivers just sitting in the car, they may have only seen 1 or 2 laps from this guy. Yeah. So
and that's another thing, because I'll get drivers. First off, I get drivers ask me questions about like in a competition, like, oh, well, what do you think I did wrong? I'm not a judge. Like, don't ever ask me, why you got the score you got, because I'm not a judge. But they'll ask me like, oh, like, am I doing well, or, where should I improve? And because they know I'm watching the laps, but what's funny is I'm not watching the drifting. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll watch as many laps as I can, but I'm looking for things that fell off the car. If we're using cones, if we're using cones, did they hit any cones? Is there a slick spot on track? Because I'll see a lot of stuff on the start line, spills and whatnot, cars leaking And so I start watching the track and seeing if it gets greasy or if there's debris of any type or anything like that. So that's what I'm always looking for. And having it Ford
distracts
Fest,
you from the
there was a lap. I think there's 2 cars, maybe 3, and you could hear metal dragging. And one of my guys, I think it was Pat. Pat's like, "Oh, I think it sounds like exhaust might be coming off one of the cars," but I had just like turned and looked at the right time, and I knew that the left rear of another car was debeated or deflated, and it was the rim that was dragging.
Oh,
so I was like, "No, we're good. Don't need to slow down. Like, let the car exit. It's just a debeat or deflate. Like, it was the rim. Like, exhausts are fine. Let the cars ride." So all of us are always, all of us are always kind of looking for. We would rather be proactive than reactive. Yeah. And if there's an issue with a car, and as it's coming off track, we're ready for it, right? Mm-hmm. We can help them or if a cone gets under a car, we don't have to say, where did this cone come from? Or where, which car hit it? We're watching every lap, so we can just grab it and go and like keep the show running. So. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a lot more than just sending cars.
Oh yeah. You can definitely tell. 'Cause I mean, my first event that I had you as a flagger was, I think the same event I saw Nate at was MIR, Stupid Cold.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Several years back. Yeah. And dude, I like, for an event that was that big, that many people there, and not really designated to the drifting, we got a lot of fucking seat time.
A lot of seat time.
And dude, I was like, man, it's really the flagging.
Kind of become a drift event, dude. Like, Scott did something really, really cool. I hate to see MIR go or whatever the case is with that. I'm not real sure, but Scott, and I know you just had him on a few episodes ago and talked a lot about the Drift Mansion, which he's doing great things with. But it's really, really cool how invested he gets in events that he has a big part of or that are like his events. Yeah. And MIR or Stupid Cold, the drifting at Stupid Cold was one of those events that, man, the last 2 or 3 years of it really kind of took off.
Yeah,
so for
they
MIR,
were bangers, man.
So for MIR to kind of like, for it to happen the way it did with MIR, it was a bummer to see. But yeah, I didn't realize. So what year was that? 2020?
Oh, no. That was like 2018 or 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, because I oddly enough, at that event, it was when I bought this house. I wasn't even here.
Oh, sick.
I was there. Wes Cloud, do you know him?
Yeah.
The Corvette?
Yeah.
So he's my realtor.
Okay.
And he texted me. He was like, dude, just popped up on the market. You need to buy this house. Fuck the house. The land that it's on, you need to buy it.
Sick.
And I was like, send me some pictures. And he sent me some pictures. I was like, dude, this is the one. Grab it now.
Dope.
Give him list price. And that's how I got the house. So that was a very
you do
crazy.
All that while you're down in Memphis at a drift event.
Dude, driving. I'm sweating my balls off, getting out of the car, texting him back real quick, changing my tires, going back out on track for a few laps, coming back, checking my phone again, seeing what he did.
That's a lot.
It was a rough weekend. But and if anyone out there has bought a house, you know how crazy that process is alone. So
that's funny. That's cool though. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think that year. Because if it were 18 or 19, that would have been one of the first years that he really built out. That's probably the first year of it being like as big as it was. There was always some sort of like.
It was unique that year because we did that little hairpin layout right by the crowd.
Yeah.
So we came up from the straightaway on the road course, and then it just kind of went into this long, kind of like figure 8. But you did
on one day, and then the next day we did
next day was the big sweeper under the sign.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember what the last day was.
Yeah.
But dude, the big sweeper under the sign is amazing. I love that.
And it's cool because it's blind.
Yeah.
Like on initiation and on entry, it's blind.
Mm-hmm.
But then and as soon as you get around that wall, that first sweeping left, like it all opens up. And for being, I mean, honestly, like when you get there, you're like, "Where's the track?" Like I don't see the way.
Yeah.
But once you're driving, you're like, "Oh, this is sick!" Like it's fast and it's fun. It's a good flow to it.
I will say one thing that irritated me at that event was the drivers not knowing how to run the layout. Because a lot of the high horsepower guys, they'd get around the sweeper, and it was like just basically a couple S's, and then it was a long straight into the 90s. Well, all those S's, people would just try and like interclip them, every single one of them. Like, that's no fun. That doesn't help tandems. That just confuses everyone. You want to go around the sweeper, get as close to that wall as you can, and then keep running the outer line. But nobody would do that.
Yeah.
And me and Jackson Saxon were the only ones that would do it.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of goes back to some stuff that I've been, I've been seeing it more. I mean, yeah, more lately than not, but just over the years, like, even if the driver or the car isn't that competitive, dude, everyone's building these cars with these super tight setups in them and trying to be as fast as possible and use as much tire as possible. And, which I think there's a time and a place.
I mean, yeah,
I get
if you
it.
want, go for it. But
but even like, again, because they're so fresh in my memory, like LS Fest and Ford Fest, like, but you've driven that layout though, right? Have you driven that layout?
Oh yeah, plenty of times.
So it's good for a looser setup.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those layouts that, like, if you let the car float, like if you loosen the car up and kind of let like nature take its course, it's so much better. And some of the gnarliest cars at these last two events, and some of the, cars with the biggest tires, most power, whatever, they couldn't put the runs together. They couldn't put the car where we wanted it. Like at LS Fest, Ford Fest isn't judged, but like at LS Fest, there were some serious cars and serious drivers that just couldn't get the car where the judges wanted it because they were so hooked up. I'm like, man, loosen them up.
The first outer zone was normally the problem you see.
Yeah, first outer zone was one.
Yeah. I'll put a picture of Beach Bend up so you guys can see it, because that first outer zone is a little bit weird. That wall is not an actual arc.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
It's a strange line.
Yeah.
So, and like we were talking about before we started filming, like, you enter wide, and 9 times out of 10, well, no, I think naturally it's going to pull the car to a midline, and then you can finish that section pretty wide.
Yeah.
But the judges wanted that section to be an outer zone. So, to time your entry correct, but also like almost as soon as they would set the car into that first outer zone, you have to get on the foot brake.
Yeah.
And let the car kind of back up into the wall. And by doing so, that puts you into a spot where the next spot was, for the first time ever, we made it a outside touch and go, outside touch and go. Used to be an outer zone in the past. But a lot
of people were having problems with that.
Yeah.
That line wasn't setting them up for it.
Yeah. Cause if you couldn't get the car all the way into that outer zone, and while you're there, load it up, you weren't going to make it to the touch and go.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of great drivers there. I would say, man, 10 maybe or less drivers were filling the outer zone and getting to that touch and go.
Oh yeah.
Because I can't remember if we streamed qualifying. I think we streamed qualifying. You can hear the scores. Like, you'll watch some banger runs and they're like 70. And you're like, what? and then all of a sudden, like Luke Fink in the 90s, Dirk, and then I think there was a half a point that separated Luke Fink and Dirk. So because they've got the years, like they've got the experience to know, like, fast and aggressive doesn't always, it might feel like you're killing it, but you might not be. So they've learned to kind of like get that in check and like focus actually on what the car's doing and what the judges want. So those are the drivers that, and Naren as well. There were some drivers that were doing it, but instead of just like going buck wild on that first zone and letting the car take that midline or whatever, they'd get the car to angle and they'd, get on the foot brake or whatever they're doing to fill that outer zone. And then halfway through, you can almost see it in their driving, like setting up for that touch and go. Once you get to the outer zone and the touch and go, everything else was cake.
Yeah.
But you got to let the car float. Like it almost, like I said, it almost rewarded like a looser, like funner approach.
Yeah.
Because my favorite part of the track is that outer zone right by me. So the second outer zone.
Yeah.
Where you come to the power alley, you build that speed back up, and you can just huck into that. And it's a quick like transition. Once the car's at angle, you just let it eat. You open it up, and a lot of drivers would ride foot brake through there too. But it's such a fun. It looks so fun because I think it's a really good like perspective. They can kind of see it pretty early on, so they can set up for it. And when and my perspective on it, like what I can see from the start line, it's so sick to see, like, because we added an arc to it. In the past, it was just like a straight outer
line,
zone.
yeah.
But this year, and shout out to Pat for Gooden for that idea to build that arc and to actually extend that zone. It made it feel more natural to the drivers. But to watch some of these drivers come in, and even though they're just cones, dude, the precision, like you would watch 4 cones, and I think we had 4 cones marking the zone. 4 cones would just get nudged.
Yeah, you just see them move from the
gnarly,
wind.
Dude.
Yeah,
such a cool little perspective. But yeah, for being a simple, totally paved, small oval, it's been around for a million years. Beach Bend's special. Like, it's a fun track,
dude, because it's more than just a track.
Yeah.
Like, there's an amusement park,
yeah,
and a water park.
Yeah.
Literally on the grounds. I mean, you can see it in all of these YouTubers' videos.
Dude, watch
cool.
Grant Anderson's YouTube video.
I was literally just watching it this morning. He flips out when he goes to Beach Bend.
Yeah,
I love it.
I told Grant, I go, dude, that's one of my favorite videos of anyone that comes to LS Fest because it's genuine. He's like, because he talks about how much he loves the place and like just like the when you're entering the facility and like the roads that take you in and the trees, the farmland, the off road track. Then you're like, oh, this is rad. Then you crest a hill and you're like, it's a fucking theme park.
Yeah,
it's like an old.
Am I in the right place,
yeah,
dude? What?
And at the bottom of that is a water park.
Yeah,
and so during LS Fest, the general admission tickets get you into all that. So you can actually like go to LS Fest, walk the show, watch some drifting, drag racing, or whatever, and be like,
go cool off.
Let's pop
park
up to the lazy river,
and
then like hit the roller coaster and stuff. So it's pretty sick they do that. Super special.
We brought a little kiddie pool and threw it in the bed.
That's what we do, and that's another cool thing about it. It's one of those events, right? It's one of those events where that works.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's for as long as I've been doing it, and I think a lot of guys at Hollywood would disagree with this, but I think, in my opinion, it's very much the same event they started doing 13 years ago, 14 years ago. The schedule is so similar still. The features of the event are it's drag racing, it's autocross, it's drifting, it's car show, and then it's vendors. We've added off-road. There are like little things that have changed along the way, and the schedule has kind of been massaged, but it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah. There's a key to the repetition you have to keep.
Yeah.
In order to keep people engaged, because they got to know they're getting this, and this for certain, but you may throw that little extra treat on there.
Yeah.
As well, just to keep up with the times.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, like, and this kind of contradicts what I just said. It's cool to see what the event's turned into, even though it's very true to what it was when it started.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's one of those events where there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of competitive people, and some really killer cars and teams. But at the same time, like, it's light. The mood's light. It's very chill. I think it's cool for the drivers to come to an event like that, and we go on for a session. They drive for an hour and a half, 2.5 hours, whatever. Then they're chilling for the next 2 or 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
So they can actually go experience the rest of the show, or go off site and get lunch or do whatever. Like, it's like it's a cool schedule.
Yeah. LS Fest seemed to have it more refined as far as balance of seat time and free time. I know drifting is fairly new for Ford Fest, so
yeah. Well, we've been doing it since Ford Fest started. Ford Fest is new. I think this is our 5th year doing Ford Fest, 4th or 5th. And the type of car and driver that Ford Fest in general brings, but specifically drifting, like, and this is not a statistic that I've fact checked, but like, to give you an idea, like the example I gave a lot of people at Ford Fest was like, with LS Fest, the cars and drivers that are at LS Fest, the cars represent, let's just say, 1% of the LS swamped drift cars in America.
Yeah, I remember you said this in a driver's meeting.
Yeah. So you've got it's easier to curate a competitive field of car and driver and LS Fest. Ford Fest, again, fake number. Let's say the field of drivers at Ford Fest represents like 20 to 30% of the Ford powered drift cars in the country.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a larger range. You can't really fine tune it down to competition only or like whatever the case. So a lot of those dudes, Ben Hobson, his car looks sick, and it's like, I've always told him it's like super like dickhead how he has his car wrapped like a pro car.
Oh yeah,
but it's a total street car. Like he dailies that thing.
No, I've ridden in it.
Yeah,
I've gone
it's
on
a street car,
with
dude.
him.
It's
Yeah.
and so he, I mean, he trailered it there, but unloads it and drives it to the hotel. Drove it all weekend.
Yeah.
So you have stuff like that, and then you have Vaughn and Chelsea or Davey, the guy that unfortunately lost his motor on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's like full tilt, like comp spec drift cars and great drivers. And there's a lot of drivers there that it's their first, second year driving. Maybe it's their second or third event. And it's not like, oops, these guys slipped through the cracks, because I do vet all these drivers. Ford Fest is an exhibition, so it's like, cool, come learn how to drive. Or not learn how to drive. Don't show up to Ford Fest.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest that one.
Know what you're doing, but like, come get more comfortable in tandem. Come, get just more comfortable driving the car, or whatever the case may be. It's a good environment for that. So there's
my buddy Daniel was one, for example. The one where his car kept shutting off.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was his first time like building a car himself. He had drifted before, but nothing to like the extent that anyone else out there had.
Right.
So he was dealing with some stuff, just literally finishing that build.
But it never slowed me down.
There.
Like they let me know what was going on, and like I kept an eye on that car as it was coming through like the line, and when it was like I tried to get them moving as quickly as possible, like, and it was fine. But also like, okay, like let's say it did slow us down. Like at an event like that, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We start when we need to start, we finish when we need to finish. We don't have to qualify 32 cars or get through 50 cars for qualifying. We don't have to make sure we finish top 32 bracket or top, whatever. Like we just drive till we can. So it's cool to have that kind of like laid back schedule.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Well, speaking of beach bin and like Bowling Green area, that's where you live, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so what actually brought you to Bowling Green?
Holly. Yeah.
Holly. Okay, so what would, I guess, just job position?
Yeah, so I've been with Holly for right around a year and a half now, full time. So like I said, I've been working with Holly for over a decade with their events, coming in and running drifting for them at all LS Fest and Ford Fest events. And then a couple of years ago, I got word from the guys there that they were putting together an internal like dedicated events team, because they wanted to do eventually, maybe more events, but they had created so many different events that it made sense to have an internal
you gotta have somebody dedicated to it.
So it piqued my interest, and I loved my job at the time. I was with Fortunato for years before that, but on the like digital marketing, social media, and like driver partnership, sponsorship, program management side of things, which was sick. Like I've working with drivers is always like my passion. Like I love that connection I get with the drivers. So the position at Fortunato and just the team, like, I can't say enough great stuff about, Fortunato. I was with Fortune, and then, we started, Holly reached out and said, "Hey, we're working on this." And I go, like, let me know.
Yeah.
And, then they're like, yeah, like it's happening. Like, and so we put that together, and I moved to Bowling Green in, April of 22. So,
hell yeah.
But it was kind of funny though, because born and raised Nashville, actually like White House.
Oh, you were born in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, sick.
Yeah. So it was bizarre because family and like the few like hometown friends that I still keep in touch with, they would always ask like, do you think you'd ever like come back to Nashville? And I go, no, I was like, there's nothing for me here professionally.
Yeah.
Like there's like the industry and the community there wasn't enough here to like justify the move. Yeah. So
the taxes is what keeps me here.
Yeah. So it was kind of bizarre and like a kind of like a plot twist when Holly brought me like back home, like
back to the South at least. Yeah.
that close to home. And growing up in White House, which is like 30 minutes north of Nashville, I spent a lot of time in Bowling Green growing up, so it was a very familiar area. And actually, when I was shopping for a place, like I just the hotel that I would always stay at in Bowling Green when I would come to town for Holly events.
Yeah.
I Googled it and it was like zoomed out, and there was like a pretty nice like apartment complex right next to it.
Oh,
that's where I'm moving.
that's
So like because I knew the area. I was like,
hilarious.
That's it. So and it's like I don't know, like 10, 12 minutes from the office. I'm right by the highway. Bowling Green's a cool, easy town too.
Oh
So,
yeah, it is. It's pretty relaxed town.
But yeah, I've been there for about a year and a half now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So Holly's like your actual day job.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. I'm most Monday through Friday. I'm in the office. I mean, it's Friday when we're recording this, but they were nice enough to give me and my guys, like our team, like a couple days off to like.
That's awesome.
Finally, like I mean, it's been a month straight. We've been running for these events. So yeah, we took a couple days to recharge, but yeah, Monday through Friday, like full-time gig is with Holly. So everything else, Grid Life, LZ, I mean, even like Drift HQ, like 4th of July and all these other events that I can pick up and jam. That's all like, I don't know, like side work. I don't even want to call it work, but it's like, I'm gonna have to smoke all my PTO. Like I haven't taken a vacation since like 2009. Like I don't know I wouldn't know what to do on a vacation. So I burn up all my PTO.
I don't personally believe in vacations anyways. I like my little mini vacations where I get to enjoy and work at the same time.
And also just like, I don't require much, you know. It's like, yes, I had the day off yesterday for the first time and I don't know how long. And I go, one day's good.
Yeah, dude, I'll lose my mind if I sit around and not work for too long.
So the fact that you and I had this book was like, yeah, perfect. Like I'll take a day and chill, and then like this is far from like work. Like it's sick to hang and like talk about drifting, but I was like, you know, like it's relevant, like to kind of like get back in the headspace and like focus on the sport again. So yeah, I don't know what I would do with a vacation, but I thankfully have vacation time through Holly that I use to go to these events, and it doesn't. You know, it doesn't cause too much inconvenience for me or Holly.
Yeah.
So it works. And when I was at Fortune, the team there, specifically the owner, Terry, such a great dude, was just like, man, like get your, you know, make sure your work is done. But yeah, go wherever you need to go, do what you need to do. Like, and it wasn't like a me thing, because I think he saw the value in the relationships that I was creating and maintaining with drivers and other brands in the community, and was able to reach a lot of people and a lot of you know, or kind of like build an audience.
He saw that your value was best handled outside of the office rather than in,
which I'll never forget, and I'll always be thankful for, because
that's a good owner.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude, he was so rad about stuff like that. And it's not that I don't have that now at Holly. I work for a couple of, you know, very understanding and adaptive guys, but you know, Holly's, you know, it's a publicly owned, publicly traded company as of a couple of years ago. And so with that comes a lot of red tape and policies and procedures, and you know, like everyone plays by the same rules and things like that.
Highly corporate world.
So it's more of an obstacle now, but hasn't gotten in the way yet. So just kind of riding the wave.
That's good. So your actual like day-to-day work, since when you're not at events, are you basically just coordinating the next event, or? Yeah,
I mean, so right now is like a lot of like trade show. I mean, trade show season is right around the corner. So SEMA's up next. So I'm back in the office Monday with the guys, and you know, we're getting everything organized for SEMA, all the stuff we're taking out there, and so SEMA, PRI. But
I'm trying to make it out to there.
And PRI,
yeah.
Have you been before?
Mm-mm.
It's sick. It's our SEMA. Like it's a SEMA for us. Like it's way more motorsports focused. A lot of the glitz and glam is gone. Like SEMA's, you know,
SEMA's a show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. PRI is, and it's not like PRI is like just straight down to business. There's just like the display cars. The majority of them are like race cars, and there's like more motorsport focused stuff rather than like, you know, you have like the truck stuff and like all like these like SEMA only. Like you said, it's a show. Stuff, so like SEMA specific builds. PRI, there's a lot more motorsport stuff, and it feels more blue collar.
Yeah.
Like PRI feels way more blue collar than SEMA, where SEMA is, I mean, it's Las Vegas, and I mean SEMA is very Las Vegas in its presentation. Yeah. So it's cool. Like SEMA is definitely like a bucket list thing. For me, it was like a one and done. Fortunately, even though I'm going to be working on like SEMA stuff next week, I don't have to go this year, and I'm super pumped on that.
Yeah,
like because it's a long week, dude. PRI is too, but it's just Indy's just an easier time to get around than Vegas. So
I want to go to SEMA one day, but I'm like, I hate big cities. I hate a bunch of people. So like, I'm very introverted off camera and stuff, and like just being in my normal life. So that type of stuff stresses me out.
Dude, I've noticed
10
that
times
about
worse.
so many people that are great behind the camera.
Oh
Like,
yeah, majority of content creators are very introverted.
Very introverted. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's and not to say it in a bad way or at all, but it's like I think, and this is like a whole other subject, but I think that's where a lot of like expectation is mismanaged among like fans, where they're like, oh, I met so and so, and they were kind of a dick. Like, well, yeah, but you also built this like image of this person.
You see the highlight reels,
yeah, and or you see them behind the camera or whatever. Like, that's them in their like zone.
Yeah.
But
you'll get the oddball chance of like a Jimmy Oaks, because I wholeheartedly will say what you get on camera is what you get in person.
Very much true.
So
and so the other guys that I spend a lot of time with that do make a living behind the camera, like that's still them, but I think they're able to be more expressive, like express themselves differently, behind the camera. They're more comfortable, so they're
100%
more talkative, or they're more focused or whatever. Whereas in person, like especially when it's at an event, there's so much other stuff going on too.
Yeah.
Even outside of like people that are like vloggers or whatever, but even like just pro drivers. Because I've heard it for years, like, oh, so and so is just a dick. I'm like, yeah, you met him at an autograph signing, and there's 150 people behind you. It's raining. They've got to get back and fix the car they just totaled so they can get into top 16.
Yeah, they're thinking about the thousands of dollars they just left on track.
who would be fun to talk to at that moment? Like get your merch, get your autograph, and just be grateful.
Be appreciative.
Yeah, be appreciative.
He said hi.
So, it's funny. Like, the more and more I get to experience people that build audiences and reputations behind the camera, like experience them in person. Like it's the majority of the time it's not a letdown, but every now and then you're like, oh, that's not the.
I've gotten to experience that.
Yep.
I'm not gonna name names.
No,
but,
same.
Like that is a little heartbreaking. But then you'll get people like Nate, where
dude, it's just
I had an expectation of him to be great, but like far exceeded that.
Yeah,
like he taught me more than I could ever even imagine.
And he's eager to
on camera and off.
He's eager to teach
dude,
you.
yeah, 100%.
Nate is very special. I think Nate has a great story, and he's a good example of like, and him and I talk about this often. Like he's done and seen a lot more than I would say most drivers, like goods and bads, definitely. Highs and lows.
Yeah.
And I love how he's applied the things that he's learned along the way. I mean, I think everything that's happened, that's transpired since he started driving, shows it's represented in his program now.
His mentality,
dude, it's
the way he keeps level head,
and it's so contagious. Like it's so and that's why I love being on track with him, because like and sometimes like I'll be going through it, or like shit's just kind of like crumbling, and he's like, hey, like it's cool. Like he's like, dude, chill.
Yeah.
Like we're here, we're having fun. You're right, dude. You're right. So,
bring you back to reality real quick.
But he calms you down with a high energy. Like he's very like he's a high energy person.
Yeah.
But no,
I envy people like that.
Same.
Because I just can't.
I can't, and dude, like it's might as well be written across my forehead.
Yeah, might as well.
Did you look miserable? I go, I am.
Yeah, dude, like, that was the biggest thing people would say to me in high school. Why do you look so pissed off all the time, dude? I'm just walking down the hallway.
Yeah,
like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
I'm in school.
Yeah.
What else?
It's that RBF. It's that rest in bitch face.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe people haven't noticed it, or maybe just people accept it, like drivers and other people. I'm trying so hard to be like more like to like portray more positivity, like on track and stuff, because. I mean, just in the past couple of years that I'm like, dude, I love, like, I do. I love drifting. I love these events. I love these drivers and even stuff like this. Like, it's sick. It's sick what drifting has created for all of us. Like, to look back, I mean, I don't know, like, when it clicked for you or when, like, when you jumped all in, but, like, and it was
I could tell you.
Yeah, like, let's do that. Let's do this. What was it for you? What was, like, day one for you?
So, I had been to, You remember Turismo Drift Days?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was like my first taste of drifting, getting to see it in person.
Yeah.
I went to a couple of those and I was like, man, this shit's fucking cool. But it still was like on that like NASCAR level of like, this isn't normal guy obtainable. It just seemed that way because I was too young, of course, as well. But the first time I went and rode along with a buddy that was doing it was at a Clarksville event. I had a 2016 Mazda 3 at the time. Slammed on some MRR HR3s, 20-inch wheels. It was a cool car. I loved it. Went and rode along all day with my buddy Brennan. And by the end of the day, I'm sitting there in the passenger seat like this. And I'm like, dude, fuck this shit. Either get me out of the car or find me a car.
Right.
Because I've got to do this. No, I don't care what it takes. And literally that night, I went home and I posted pictures of every part that was on my car, on my wheels, suspension, everything for sale.
Gotta go.
Found the Z the next weekend. Hadn't sold a single part. Spent my entire check to go get this car. Didn't have any money for the rest of the week, but I was like, fuck it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And went and bought this car. Luckily, there was a whole ordeal with that car. I don't want to say that on the internet, but I got the car for $600. So I had a blown motor, came with a motor. That one had rod knock, bought a motor, and it was good to go.
Sick.
And I could not blow that VQ up. Right. I tried towards the end of it because I knew I was going to swap an RB in.
VQs get a bad rap, dude. They're good.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck anyone that gives
I'm team VQ.
VQs a bad
VQ,
rap.
yeah.
DEs specifically are the best, in my opinion. But
no, they don't
best
sound awesome.
V6,
they don't sound awesome.
Oh, no,
who cares? It's a
no V6 does.
Dude, for a seat time car, and I tell everyone this because I meet a lot of people like, I want to get it. Dude, buy a Z. Yeah. Z33 is an easy button. There's so much support for them. The car works.
Yeah.
And and if you take just decent care of it, you're good.
Oh, yeah. You're good. They're fucking tanks.
Yeah, they're tanks. So.
Oh, my God. Like, even because one thing that's always I've loved about it is that most events, you don't have to have a cage with a Z because they have door bars already from the factory and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're structurally sound. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, that was my initial jump. So what year was drifting.
That? Like 16, 17?
Probably 17 because I graduated 16.
Okay.
So it was fairly close out of high school, I think.
Gotcha. See, I got 13 years on you.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm a young buck.
Oh no, not 13. I got about 10. So it was 04 for me.
Nice.
That's how but it wasn't like I started running events in 04. Not at all. Like that's when Formula D started. So, and I'll never forget, this was like magazine days. This predates the internet. And, I was, it might have been like a Super Street or, there used to be this really great magazine called Sport Compact Car. So it was one of those that I was looking at, and there was these printed ads for, drifting in America, Formula Drift and
dude, I wish I was from those days.
And I remember seeing it and be like, we just didn't know, we didn't know.
Yeah, it was too new.
Right. Now, my friends and I, we were we didn't follow. We were fans of drifting already. But hot version, option videos, just stuff. And again, predating the internet, at least the internet as it is now, hard as hell to really educate yourself or watch a lot of it. Yeah. So, it was, the majority of the majority of hot version stuff that we would watch and option even option stuff was friends of mine that would get these DVDs and we would just watch them religiously. Even even the hot version Drift Bible.
Oh wow.
Yeah, dude. That's the era that I come from. And so boom, Formula Drift in 2004, we're seeing magazine ads. So I'm talking to my friends. We're and round one, season one, because everyone knows round one is always Long Beach. Mm-hmm. Then it was Road Atlanta. Round one, season one, the first Formula D event was at Road Atlanta. So that's another reason why that place is so special. And so, again, living in Nashville, it's only a few hours away. So we squad up and we went down there. And dude, it was instantaneous. We're yeah, this is it. This is where we've been led to this point. This is motorsport for us. looking back, I mean, even in the moment, we're like, I don't really know what I'm seeing. I don't think anybody did.
But I got to be a part of it somehow.
I got to be a part of it. But I think we were all just like, because now, especially FD stuff is like single serving. You watch an event, you get heated, you know, whether it's good or bad. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not throwing shade to FD at all. But like emotions run high, you know, and then as soon as the event's over, you move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Back then, you're like, I want to see where this goes. I want to see what this turns into. Because kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, there was such a range of car and driver. And I mean, even then it was super international because, I mean, Signal Auto was represented. I mean, and then the CN brands, like, I mean, having Yokohama, I think it was Yokohama that had a big presence there, and like Motor X and DRFT and all these like cool brands, that we'd just seen in print and online and in DVDs for so long. To see them not only represented in the States, but also like represented on American drivers. Forsberg's had a really cool story. And this, I'm sure I'm missing some details here, but, I think it was like college money that he was like, no, like I'm going to put this into a Z. And then he got a really, cool program and a good relationship, or was building a relationship with Signal Auto, and kept popping VQs to kind of like contradict what we were just talking about.
I know.
But this the Z33
before the science of them.
Yeah, the card had been out for a year, so VQ is still real new. And so they kept popping. It was probably like a turbo setup or whatever. They kept blowing these VQs up. So Forsberg, this will always be one of my favorite drift cars. An SR, it was one of the first SR powered 350Zs with like the sick DRFT kit, and like these like sick like racing heart wheels. Like it was just a really, really cool. It was low. And the car, I don't know. I have no idea how much power the car made, but it's like, I don't know. At FD that year, in year one, there were cars with 180 and then the 700 horsepower.
Jesus.
Yeah, dude. Like the Corollas and stuff and it was, I mean, there are the majority of Pro-Am events now trump, like just crush
the
level of Pro back then.
You're getting smacked if you're less than 600.
Wild. It's wild to go back and watch like what used to be considered like active chase. And there's how that I remember, I think this was year one. It was one of the early years, but like Sam Hubinette in his like in a decommissioned like race car Viper. It was either Sam or maybe it was like Tarzan Yamatics. I know Tarzan was driving an old Viper in the early years too. But anyway, it was a Viper against a Corolla, and they went one more time, a couple of times, and then I might be wrong, but the way I remember it is the way the Viper finally won was going back up the Hill Road Atlanta. He did an intentional 360, and the crowd went crazy, and they were like, "That's the coolest shit ever." So and now it's like if you have a backwards entry,
I was about to say you can't even do a backy now.
Unfollowable wasn't a term back then. You know, like it's just
Luke Fink and LZ proved that wrong this weekend.
Okay, Luke Fink's one of the best drivers I've ever watched drive. Luke Fink is, he's one of the best drivers I've ever watched drive, especially in such a simple. If anyone questions if the C5 C6 Corvette's the best drift chassis, look what Luke's doing. Like Luke's car is so easy. Yeah, you know, and there's a ton of great C6 C5 Corvette drift cars.
Actually,
Luke's car is so.
If you're still watching till this point in the video, you get the little sneak peek. But Luke Fink's coming.
Sick.
The 15th. So
rad.
He'll be on the podcast.
Awesome.
Do you have any questions
for Luke?
Yeah.
God, dude. Probably nothing I haven't asked him in person. Luke and I have been fortunate to spend some time with him, especially this past month. I think my question for Luke would be, like kind of like where he would rank his car, the Corvette, among cars he's owned or driven. I would say I want to know where he ranks it among cars he's driven.
Like drivability wise, or
just overall, like as a drift car.
Okay.
Because
he's been in
I wouldn't want to specify as a competition drift car or as an exhibition drift car. I don't want to specify because I've seen him do all of those types of driving in that car well.
Yeah.
Like he every time. And the crazy part is like to see, and I witnessed it first at LS. I mean, it's not like my eyes were open to like how good Luke is. Like I've always known that he's a great driver, but at LS Fest, it's so fun to watch him like know the compromises he has to make in order to maintain proximity or like get advantage over a driver. Luke's one of those few drivers that you're going to see a different lap between qualifying and competition.
Oh, yeah.
The majority of drivers they just know how to do it one way. Luke, especially in a car that I'm not talking shit on the car. It's a great car. And a car that holds him back because it doesn't have a ton of setup in it because it's a street car. It's a street car with angle and, some power mods.
I get a lot from his in-car footage.
Yeah, dude.
Because especially in Canada, because you would notice when that straightaway comes where he would supposedly get lost, he's supposed to, he wouldn't. But like you would see him on the transitions, like he does not lift.
But he's also 2 turns ahead. Like if the car, because in that straightaway before the back section in Canada, I don't know which outer zone that would have been, but leading into like the last left, he would be 2 turns ahead, knowing he needed to put the car at a certain spot so that he could, connect that little straightaway with minimal power, a ton of grip because Corvettes just make a ton of grip, but it's baby angle. Like, I'm sure there were a couple times practice or whatever that he probably went like neutral steering or maybe had to reinitiate. But in competition, like it would just be just the slightest bit of counter steer so that he could maintain that speed, and he would dive bomb. Whenever he was following, he would dive bomb the car in front of him, or in the case of with Adam, just back it in. Yeah,
because you got to run with the momentum.
But it worked. It was like the planets aligned because a lot of drivers should have tried. I don't want to say should have tried that because it was said that the drivers or the judges weren't going to reward stuff like backwards entries and stuff. That where it happened on track and the way he went about it, it was followable. Yeah. It was not only was it followable, it worked in as the follow car. He showed that. So like everything, there's a time and a place, but it's just nuts to see what he does with that car. And not to like push his program along or add any sort of like, or not, not to set like some like false expectation, but I would love to see him I would love to see like that car get a little bit more and a little bit more like over time. Yeah. Because I think we would see a little bit done to the car, leaps and bounds in his driving.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just nuts, man. And I've told him this and I've told his wife this and that my friends, like our friends and I that I've talked to agree. And I mean this with all due respect, Luke. There is something clinically wrong with the dude that he is just naturally like, I don't care. Like, it's like he has the least amount of like shit to give. Like, he's just like, it's whatever. And
I feel like that's an Australian thing, though. A lot of Australians are like that.
Dude, maybe. Whatever it is, he's just like, it's fine. It's whatever. And which is great for me, too, because, I mean, you've driven, you've been to plenty of events. We all have to be adaptive. Like, whether it's weather or mechanical, somebody oils the track down, schedule gets cut short, or we start early, we run late, whatever. We all have to be adaptive. Luke is never the guy to be like, what the fuck? Yeah. Luke is never the guy to be like, why? Yeah. Luke's just like, cool, thanks, man, I get it.
I saw that in the drivers' meeting.
Dude,
when at the LSS drivers' meeting, he was pointing out the last inner clip before the last outer, and he was talking about how people needed to go wide right there instead of just straight to the cone. Yeah. And he was talking about possibly putting an outer zone right there so that it would encourage people to go that way.
Right.
And you guys basically told him, no, this is why. And he was like, oh, okay,
cool,
that works.
Thanks.
Just so I know.
And so, yeah, he was like, cool, thanks. But also, he did it because he's like, fuck it, I can drive it anyway. Whatever you want him to do, he's going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nuts, dude. It's nuts. But it's also, it's a great car. I'm not taking away from Luke as a driver because he's phenomenal, but that car is super simple. Grant drove that car, I think for the first time Grant drove it at LS Fest on Sunday, a couple laps, and I don't think he ever ran like outer zone 1, like on the bank, but the rest of the course. And you could see, like,
he ran half of it towards the last lap or two.
And then, like,
I was out there shooting at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But even his first lap, by the end of the lap, you could see, like, it starts to click already. Yeah. Then in Canada, if I can remember the process, I think Grant, like, trashed his rear subframe and his diff practically fell out of the car in top 4 of Saturday in Canada. So last chance 16.
The trans.
No, it wasn't the trans. It was like, dude, you could look under the car and the diff was like hanging.
Oh, Christ.
Shredded. It like tore the rear subframe. Still drivable though. Like the dude's like, my diff is falling out of my car. And then he drove it. I go, okay, whatever. But anyway, not to say that it wasn't. It was just like
you're bold, bro.
It started to like not like drifting, but he was able to like drive it up in front of the fans and
yeah.
But so and that happened in his final 4 battle, which he won. Maybe it was a 3rd place battle. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember exactly what it was. But
correct us in the comments.
Yeah, please. But whatever the scenario was, he won the battle. Even though his car fell apart, he had won the battle and he was moving on. But he didn't have a car. So Luke, literally on the live stream, drives up and is like, "Yo, you're using my car," like in front of the crowd and everything. Yeah. So Luke gives him the car in front of the crowd and everything. It was super cool. Because I can't remember how I got word of that, but someone or maybe Grant said something to me. But anyway, like the way Canada was set up, it was pretty cool for me too because there's so many events that I do where it's like just me and a bunch of cars.
Yeah. So
I don't have anybody to like talk to or anything like that. The paddock was right beside start finish or the start line. So drivers that weren't competing or like crew and some other people that were right there on the wall. So I had people to kind of chit chat with. So whatever, Grant limps the car up in front of the crowd. And immediately I'm like looking for Luke. I'm like calling out for Luke. And he was sitting on top of his trailer with his wife and his kids. And we talked about that. And he literally, like, as we're talking about it, is climbing down off the trailer, jumps in the car, drives down track. I'm like, no, dude, not yet. Like, he's still,
Yeah.
He goes, I want to do this in front of the crowd for the show. Luke's such a showman. So, like,
fuck yeah.
And so great showmanship for that. It was great for the production. And it just added, like, that extra, like, kind of like pizzazz.
Yeah.
But then, dude, to go back on how simple but good that car is, if I'm not mistaken, Grant won the battle.
I'm pretty sure
in
he did,
Luke's car.
Yeah.
Which was the second time he'd ever driven it. First time on that track.
Yeah, because they were saying
in
the announcers were saying they thought it was his first time in that car. Yeah. And I was like, nope, he was actually in.
He drove it at LS Fest, but that was his first laps in that car at that track, which was completely different from LS Fest. I mean, that was a fast road course. There's no chance he got out of second gear at LS Fest. Like, and it still might have been top of second. I'm not sure what gear that car was in Canada. Much faster track, way more technical.
Yeah.
And won the battle.
Grant's a good driver. He's a really good driver.
Grant is almost as good of a driver as he is a person.
Yeah. I lost it when he finally started his YouTube channel. Dude. So many people kept trying to pressure him into doing it. He just would not do it for the longest. I want to know why.
I've never had that conversation with him.
Oh, I'm going to ask him.
Get him. Yeah, we need to get him on the pod.
He's already said he will. I just have to. Yeah, we got to arrange it. But
get him on the pod. Because I would love to hear that story. But I think that was probably one of the most like anticipated like YouTube channels.
Very
in the past few
years.
And
he always joked about it as like Tommy wouldn't let him and stuff like that, which I knew that's funny.
Right.
Like I don't think that's actually true,
but he was also like everyone's like hype man,
dude. Yeah,
not even hype man. I don't want to discredit him because he's so much more than that. But he was just like, and this is him as a person. He's everyone's best friend. He's such a great dude, and he knows this. I don't know if him and I've ever like talked about this. But I didn't like him at first. Really? Yeah, I didn't like him at first, and I didn't really have a reason. Him and I have always had a lot of mutual friends, and it's not that he ever did anything wrong. And I'm not saying like he used to be a certain way because that's not the case. Grant's always been a great dude because all of our mutual friends were like, "Dude, why don't you like Grant?" I go, "I don't know. I don't know
what it is."
And there's and if someone told me that today, I'd be like, you're wrong. Like if someone said, I don't like Grant, I'd be like, well, you're an idiot. Because Grant is honestly,
Open your eyes.
and also like him and I communicate that so much now. Like I'll tell every time I see him, I hug him, I tell him I love him. He does the same. Like it's such a good time with Grant. He's such a solid dude, and it's really cool to see like, and I think it was Pat that I was talking to recently about like he's been driving for so long, but for so many years he only did, a couple of events a year.
Mm-hmm.
It was only until recently, past, however many years, handful of years, that he started driving more, and now that's his gig.
Yeah.
And back on simple cars, like that's just an LS1 car with a good nitro setup on it, and I mean whatever T56 car, and I think the majority of stuff done on that car, as it should be, was done out of necessity. Like it wasn't like he didn't like build the super competitive car and then learn how to drive it. Like it's always been very basic. And I mean, anytime he drives that car,
that's proper.
That thing's wooded. Like you can't really like, there's no half stepping in that car. Like it's like, you have to drive it 100%.
Yeah. It likes to be beat on.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be, because even for being just like, like I said, like LS1 with like spray, it's got a lot of grip in it. And he's, over time, there's more setup than ever in that car, but the majority of cars that he beats have way more setup, way more power, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or built with like at the time like a much bigger budget or whatever the case. But Grant knows that car really, really well. I'm excited to see him, with what's next. I'm really excited to see like where the program goes. I know he's putting together a new car and stuff like that, which I'm not gonna like air a bunch of that stuff out. I'll leave that to him. But like, I'm excited to see it because he's gotten to be such a great driver, but he's so good in that car. Yeah. But same with Luke. Like I would love to see like, little things done to the Corvette, because I think a little bit done to the car would translate to a lot of bit done as a driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, the good thing with Luke is like that the Corvette is such a small part of his entire life anyway. Yeah. So like you still get to see him in all of these bigger cars, but I do agree when he comes here to also get that progression on this side of the world as well.
Yeah, I got to chop it up with him a little bit while we were in Canada. We had dinner. We had dinner one night, and there was just a lot that I didn't know about his history as a driver and like his story, and it's really cool to see like where it's all brought him. And as he told me like the stuff that he's done over the years, I go, oh, that makes total sense. Yeah. Knowing how great he is as a driver and how talented and capable he is, like it makes total sense. And I just had I assumed that he had experience doing those things, but to hear it like factually like presented and like I guess okay, that all checks out.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, with all the events that you have, I guess, hosted and been to and stuff like that, have you ever gotten to drive any of them yourself?
Long time ago. But honestly, and this isn't like, again, like not cool guy stuff. That's not where my heart is.
Yeah.
Like I
find that interesting with event hosts because that's normally their passion. They don't care for the driver.
But it never works.
Really?
I've never seen it work where an event coordinator or host or whatever, especially in an operations position, like on track.
Yeah.
Because I think we've all seen it where it's their event and they're going, well, I'll run track for this and I'm going to drive later. Again, that's me being particular, and I'm not talking bad about anybody that's done that. And there's probably people listening to this, watching this, that have either done it or been to those events, and be like, no, it was fine. I'm not saying it doesn't work at all. It just doesn't work as good as it could.
Yeah.
Because there's only a couple of very specific exceptions, but the vast majority, close to all of the events that I do, myself and the team, no one's there to drive.
Yeah.
The majority of the team that I work with, especially with like LS Fest, Ford Fest, hell, even LZ stuff, a lot of them are, dude, almost all of drift games, they're all drivers, or a lot of them are drivers.
Yeah.
And dude, Dave's got a hell of a collection. But the majority of the people that I work with have driven or are drivers, just not at that event.
Yeah.
Pat brought his car to LS Fest this year. We knew we were marking the course for the first time, like marking outer zones rather than just using cones.
Mm-hmm.
So he, we wanted his car there so he could make a couple laps on Wednesday or Thursday to know how to market things like that. That's different.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, dude, if the car's there, I might rip a couple laps during Friday practice or Sunday. I go, yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he even did. Like once we were going, he's like, no,
yeah, you get too caught up.
Well, and he got into like judging group. He's like, no, I'm needed here.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gone to events to help, and someone say, hey, I need you here for this, and because that person it was their event, and they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna get some laps. And honestly, I need to like say this because I know, I don't think it happened at the Drift Mansion, but I know Scott has done that.
Mm-hmm.
Scott is an exception to this. Like, to go back on what we said earlier, and Scott's really invested in the events that he does. I think he waits for it to get, if not even waits for it, if it gets to a point where he's like, Swann, you got this, or whoever, like it's run, like the event is running. Yeah. He's like, hey, I'm going to go hop in the car and get a couple laps. And when he says a couple laps, he means a couple laps. He'll come out, he'll bang out a couple laps, and he's done. He's back out and helping or doing whatever.
Yep.
But it's not like, that's not his goal of the weekend, is to like, got to make sure I get some laps. If the opportunity comes up, he'll do that.
The 50K was one, for example. He didn't plan on bringing his car up to Salem.
Right.
And Ryan texted him like the night before and was like, if you want to bring your car and do a few laps while you're here, go for it.
Right.
And he brought the Corvette, shredded a few laps the first day before practice and stuff.
Right,
and then he was done.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the case of something like that, like he's got Mike. Mike's a hammer. Mike can run the booth and stuff like that. If he's got to be, Mike's a one-man show. So, so I kind of want to put that asterisk on that because I love Scott and I didn't want to like disrespect anything he's done. But like, I have been to events to see, coordinators that want to drive, and a lot of stuff slips through the cracks, man. And for me, it's like, I think consistency, and like for lack of better words, like to have consistency, with the team. As a driver, I want everyone to see the same face and the same people every time they come to the line. I mean, given like it happened in Canada, it happens, at other events where like, so in an event where it's like, 8 or 9 in the morning until 6, 7 at night. Yeah, I want a break. I want, 30 minutes or an hour to like chill. Adam O'Connor, one of my favorite, I love all the Drift Games guys, but Adam O'Connor and he's my boy. But yeah, I need to take like a little break in Canada. He's like, yeah, I got you. And he ran grid for, I think it was 30 or 40 minutes. And he did fine. Like, Adam gets it. I didn't have to wonder if, he knew what he was doing. I know he knows what he's doing. Yeah, but for me, I'm like, oh, it's the drivers are seeing someone different. So their drivers might start wondering, well, what's going on? Why is there a change? Do I need to be worried? So I try to keep everything like super consistent, almost like it's habitual.
Consistency is important no matter what.
I want drivers to stay focused and I don't want to create any sort of additional pressure or stress or like curiosity. Even with the way I stage cars, like I do it and it's a process. Like and I try to make it the same every single time so that the drivers know what to expect. And, once we hit that groove, like it's just, again, it's clockwork, it's just, it just works. So, So back on the question, it was, I think, gosh, one of the last times I drove, I can't even remember the last time I drove. I've driven a couple people's cars, at LS Fest on Sunday at Beach Bend. Long time ago when I was doing Drift Indy, Midwest Drift Union stuff. We had an event we did at an old, Air Force base. So we had like a huge area. And I don't think it was it wasn't a competition round. So, whatever the event was, one of the staff members I can't remember who owned the car. We were all driving it that day.
Someone just handed me keys. I don't know.
It was like an RBS 13 hatch. And, we all just went out and beat the brakes off of it. So I would rip laps in that, and
Don't ever hate on RBs again.
But no, it's just it's never where my heart was. I enjoy it. I hate riding in drift cars. I hate.
Oh, I agree.
Hate it.
Mine's probably for different reasons, but
I won't. I hate it so much. I rode with Scott at in Port Alliance last year, and before that, I rode with Blake Olson, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, LSS West on a Sunday. Blake, maybe Scott too, were like, please, like they were like asking me, please. Blake, Blake's like, dude, I put a big boy seat in the car. I did all this. You have to ride with me. I don't want to. And, but I did. And I've told him this, Blake, like put down like 2 or 3 like killer laps in the E92 in his FD car.
Yeah. And
it was like kill mode. Like he wasn't like, it was like gnarly, good, smooth.
Yeah, he was showing off.
It was really, really good driving. And he goes, what do you think? I go, that's good. Get me the fuck out of here. And, even Scott, like when I rode with Scott, the couple laps I rode with Scott at Bowling Green, they were good laps, like Scott's a great wheelman. But I was like, cool. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay, then what is it though? Like you just
I couldn't tell you, the car? I couldn't tell you. It's like,
it's mine because I can't drive.
If
my car's there, I'm all for riding along.
It's probably the same reason I hate roller coasters. That's like fair. If I were driving the roller coaster, you can anticipate the turns, the acceleration, the braking. I'm sure people would say, well, it's a control thing. What makes me sound like a control? I guess I'm kind of a control freak when I think about like how I run events too.
Well, Adam LZ explains that in his videos sometimes. That's why he just but strictly just riding in passenger seat anywhere.
Yeah. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Like I love riding with the most boring, safest drivers. Like on the street, not in drift cars. I just don't ride in drift cars. But also, I know these drivers. I might not know their name. I know how they drive. I watch these drivers lap after lap. Ford Fest. Come Sunday at Ford Fest, and I know what to expect out of all 40 of those drivers. No, I don't want to get in the car with any of them. I'm not saying they weren't good. They're good. I don't want to be in the car with, and it's like, no. I just can't. It's just, I don't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it. I do, but that, not to say that I don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
Because I'm very selective about when I offer up advice or pointers.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a driver, and I don't ever want to come off like I know this better than you do. If I'm talking to a driver, I'm like, it's after a few laps, and if I'm seeing a driver struggle with something specifically, lap after lap or whatever throughout a day, and I've watched other drivers not struggle with it, and I watch how those drivers get through that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advice that I give. Because maybe that driver's there alone, or maybe their crew guys or crew people are just like not able to watch the laps. They don't have like a spotter or whatever. Not that everyone needs a spotter, but like they don't have someone giving them that feedback. So I'm very like slow to speak when it comes to like advice or pointers. But I do. I mean, I understand. I have a very strong understanding of what it takes to get certain things done. And even though Pat is always like the final say with like layouts, where the events we go to, even with like invitational or world tour events, like Pat has a lot of input on where the judged zones should be, outer zones and clips and stuff. I leave that up to him. There's plenty of events that I've gone and done where, I'll set a track, or like, because Pat wasn't able to make it to Vegas this past year for LS Fest West, and we set that track up, and Blake Olson, again, he was there to make a couple like laps to dial the track in, but I had an idea of what I wanted, and we put it together. And my favorite thing was Blake was like, he goes, I'm struggling with this area and that area, but it's good. Like, I can make it work. Like, don't build a track exactly for me. That's not fair.
Yeah. I get that.
So, but yeah, No, I don't. I've just never.
I was just curious,
Yeah, I've
like
never-
not to like
No,
gauge
not at all.
your
No,
level of
I don't take it
expertise
that
or
way.
anything.
I honestly, I kind of pride myself in it because, I know my lane. You know,
Yeah.
and I know my role in this whole thing, and I think that I think a lot of people, whether it's you know, a pride thing or not, a lot of people might struggle with that. Some people, I don't want to say a lot of people. Some people might struggle with like, what is their role?
Yeah.
You know, in drifting or anything, but in drifting, what is their role? Is it driver? Is it coordinator? Is it crew member or crew chief? Because there's so many great mechanics and car builders that are also drivers.
Yeah.
So you get to that point, and it's like the balance. If I did love driving or even wanted to drive, no idea where I would go and do it. Everywhere I go, I mean, so yeah, because I saw you at the 50K, what is it, last month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's one of the first events I've been to in so long, and I was just there hanging out.
Yeah. I didn't even realize, dude, I saw your car before I saw you. I looked over, I was like, dude, why does that car look so familiar? And then I was like, I looked at the wheels, and I was like, holy fuck, that looks like Nick Swann's car. And then I looked over, and you were standing next to Scott, and I was like, holy shit, what the hell?
Yeah, dude. It's like about the same distance from Bowling Green to here as it is. It was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Shout out my dude Creature. Creature came down from Chicago.
Love you, Creature. You're
Dude, that's
sick,
my
dude.
boy. Love that boy.
I gave him a shout out on. I hit him up randomly whenever I was in Texas with Nate.
Yeah.
And because I was like, his video dropped that actually I think you posted it from LS Fest, and I was like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, he's a hammer, dude.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, and dude, and the funny thing is like that particular weekend, because up until then, not to say like him and I just met, but every time I hang out with Creature, we're both working at Grid Life.
Yeah.
So he was coming down for the weekend to hang out with his girlfriend. So I was like, dude, you're that close to me. I'll come up. Like, drift event or not. Like, no discredit to the event. I'm glad there was like drifting going on, but he was that close to me. I was like, I'm going to come up and we're going to hang.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's the main reason. That's why I went. Yeah, so that event was like one of the first ones. I couldn't remember. I couldn't tell you another one that I've gone to where I wasn't working. So if I were a driver, dude, if I were to find an event or a series or whatever that I wanted to drive in, first off, it would be tough to find that. But second of all, no way in hell that I would not critique the people that are doing what I do.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way I could sit in line and be like, and not be freaking out. I'd be like, I'd fucking park the car and I'd be like, I got this. You know, like, it's just, I wouldn't, I mean, honestly, it's like, it would be like if someone, if you were like, yo, let someone else drive your car.
Yeah.
And you watch them, and whether or not it's good or bad laps, you know they're not doing everything it's capable of. So you get to a point where you're like, just get out of the car, dude. I got this.
Yes.
You know, or being in the car with someone while they're driving, you know, then just stop.
I've done that so many times.
Right. So that's what I would do. Like, I know it for a fact.
Yeah.
I do it when I do it as a spectator. Again, no discredit to any events, but I watch any event that I watch that I'm not attending, whether it's it's always online, but even in person, I go, not how I would have done it. You know, like, I can't help it, dude. I'm like, you could save so much time by doing this. You can get more laps by doing this, or do whatever. If I were in line, if I were one of the drivers, I'd be like, do y'all see this shit? You know, like, I wouldn't be able to handle it.
I get that feeling myself sometimes, but I understand that for some people that could be a little intense.
And I enjoy what I get to do. I mean, I really, really enjoy what I do. I love it. I love this shit so much, dude. Like, and which might surprise some people.
Yeah.
And I even, I don't know if you were in, because I did like a little like last minute impromptu meeting on Sunday at Ford Fest.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay. So but I felt like I needed to, like, hey guys, like, I might not look like it out there. Mm-hmm. I might not look like I'm having a good time. I am.
Yeah.
If I get loose, like if I'm cutting up and like, fucking, yeah, whatever, do whatever, that translates. And the drivers start being like, I mean, he said do this, but I can do, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
No, like I feel like I have to be stern. I feel like I have to be very like crisp and definitive with the way I speak, the way we operate.
It's efficient. It gets the point across there, then, and you don't have to think about it.
And it kind of streamlines everything. Like it trims the fat. I don't leave anything open for discussion or interpretation.
Yeah.
Like it's like, this is the thing with Luke. We brought up Luke in the driver's meeting.
Yeah.
And it's not like Luke had some like crazy request to like change the track. Luke's like, well, what about this? And I'm sure it was because Pat handles most of the judging stuff in drivers meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't malicious or mean, but I'm sure Pat was like, no, we're not doing that. Not that it didn't make sense, but no, we're not going to change the track now.
Yeah.
Also,
that's basically what his answer was too.
Right.
Like he didn't really even have an answer. He was just like, we're just not doing it.
Yeah,
like,
it's fine. Don't need it.
Yeah.
You know. And again, that same mentality from Luke when he was like, okay, cool. He just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
That's two grown-ups. That's two professionals having a discussion. Whereas, man, there was this, again, won't name names. There was this dude at LS Fest this year who drove well, qualified well, drove well, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this kid's questions and his like rebuttal, like arguments. Like he would say, well, what about this? And be like, nope. And he goes, why not? I go, doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Why not? Don't ask why. Like, if you want to
paid to be here, or did you pay to be here?
Right, but also like if you want to know why something is the way it is, drivers meeting is not the place for that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like there are a lot of like I've been in drivers meetings and like a part of like events where there were meetings when a driver will bring something up and it's like the drivers need a voice.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Drivers need to be heard, and if there are concerns, issues, questions, whatever. I'm not saying drivers don't have that voice, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you what setup to put in your car and how to drive your car. I'm here to run the event.
Yeah.
We're a team, right? Like, and that's something I've been pushing a lot these past couple of years is like, drivers aren't customers. They're not clients. They're not, they're there to do what they do. And I'm there to do what I do. If they do a great job and I do a great job, it'll be a great production.
Yeah.
So we're working together. Trust the process. Like if you might put some, weird setup in the car, I'm not going to come to you and be like, whoa, what are you doing? No, trust the process, dude. You're a specialist.
Yeah.
I am too.
You know the car better than I do. Why would I question it?
Right. And I know this event better than you do. So trust the process. LS Fest, or Holly events, we don't do protests. We don't have the time for it. We don't have the staff for it. And time and a place, man.
I think it sets an expectation too for the drivers.
Yeah.
Then they know it's fun.
Right.
Like you don't even have the opportunity to question a call or anything like that. So
and I tell
you
them,
go into it.
And I tell them like, hey, after the bracket or after the night or whatever, if you're curious about why a call was made, talk to the judges.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'll tell you. But also, like, I always remind drivers, like, you're not watching laps from the same perspective the judges are. So you might not, I said it earlier, driver might think you're killing it. They might be 3 feet off of his zone. And they don't even know it. So it's just like, dude, just like trust the process.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on that subject, but
you're good.
But it's just funny because it's for sure so many different types of events. We were saying earlier, like how many events go on, in the country, and like any given weekend, you can shut your eyes and point at a map and go to an event.
Yeah.
If you did that 5 times in a row, you're going to get 5 different event experiences. I want, and I feel like I do a pretty good job at this. I want everyone to know what to expect when they come to one of my events.
Mm-hmm. And
I want everyone to leave stoked on drifting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not like, dude, this sucks. I didn't get enough laps, and that does happen. So it's not because I don't want you to get laps. If a car oils the track.
Yeah, but even if like you go out and you get 100 laps in one day, there's always going to be that dude that's going to complain anyways.
Dude.
So
100%.
Why even stress about those?
And a lot of times that dude's the guy that didn't show up until later. I'm like, you showed up on time.
Yeah.
Or if you would have been driving.
Or he showed up to the track when his car still needed work.
Yeah. And they're like, I didn't get enough laps. Like, whose problem is that? But no, I try to get that consistency in my events. And I, you know, what I was saying earlier about letting drivers know, like, I might not look like I'm having a great time. I don't think I ever look miserable. I don't want to look miserable, but I had a few people in Canada come up to me after the event and they were like, dude, like, it's just cool watching you work, which is always so humbling and very, very flattering when people say that. But they see, like, some people will pay attention to, like, my process, like like I do have a sequence of doing things, and they see that repetition and things like that. So it's cool that people are picking up on that. But they're like, dude, you just look like hard as nails. Like, you're just like ice cold out there.
Oh yeah, you do.
And a lot of people be like, oh, I was hollering at you the whole time. I don't, like, just like a driver, I don't want them breaking their concentration. I don't want to break mine. Mm-hmm. Because I've got drivers staged. I know where I'm at in those processes and those procedures. Yeah. And it's just me and the radio at that point.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on
everything just shuts off.
I'm waiting on Pat, or I'm waiting on Kian to say, like, judge is ready, or whatever the case. So they're like, yeah, like, people will be like hollering at you and you don't even look at them. I go, yeah, I don't want to. Like, I'm not like being tough guy. Like, I'm not trying to like stand somebody down, but I'm working, like I'm in that moment. And I think a lot of times drivers notice that, and I think they appreciate that because it's just me and them. So
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah, dude. That's why I said in the beginning, you're probably one of, I would argue, the most respected event coordinator.
Thank you.
Definitely flagger
thank you.
in the industry. So
yeah, I'm thankful it's worked out that way because it does. Yeah, I mean it means a lot to me. So
yeah. Well, cool. What's kind of something that you've seen since you have been in drifting for so long that has changed over the years that you're not necessarily fond of and you wish didn't change or probably should change?
Man, I'm such an advocate of change. I welcome, not just with drifting, but I mean, we hear it all the time. Like, people are like, oh, I like drifting the way it used to be. Yeah. I did too. I loved drifting. I loved drifting when I first saw it. Loved it. But just like we talked about, you go back and watch, an FD event or any drifting from, 2000, even 2010 at this point, dude. Mm-hmm. Shit's so much cooler now.
Oh yeah.
It's so cool to see what it's come to. It's cool to think about where it's headed. Yeah. I mean, with change, you lose stuff, you gain stuff, whatever. I think probably not even probably, I think the thing that bothers me most, the thing that I dislike most that has, that drifting has produced over the years are, I don't know, I kind of like to call them tourists, people that see drift. And I'm not saying like, I hate it when new people come into drifting. I love it. I love when people fall in love with drifting. They see it like, oh, I get it, or whatever, or come to an event and then buy a car or whatever. Love that. No, seriously, I love it. It's sick though. Like, that's like, it's rad that drifting is that approachable. Mm-hmm. What I don't necessarily care for are the cash grabs. Like, people that are like, whether they have a ton of funding or they want to, why can't drifting be like NASCAR? Because it's not NASCAR, dude. Yeah. It's not. Why can't it be like sports car racing, IMSA or whatever? Because it's not. Yeah. Like, drifting is, well, first off, it's still like very young. It's still, even though, stateside, we're 20 years in with FD at least. It's still very new. Like, it's still very young. Mm-hmm. To the point that, I mean, with these tourists that I'm talking about, like, they'll come in with a big budget, or, they want the clout, they want, I don't know, there's so much corny shit happening in drifting at all times. Like, and I'll call it out. I don't know who this person is. And this is, first off, this is nothing personal, because this could turn out to be someone that I already know. I don't know. Yeah. There's this dude posting shit on Instagram. He's got a mask on. He's documenting this. I'm going to go drive FD. Have you seen this? Mm-mm. Even if I could remember his name, I wouldn't plug it because I think it's so corny. Yeah. But it's some dude. He's like running like sponsored ads on Instagram. He's wearing some like dorky like mask, and he's talking about how he's going to document this build, and how he's going to go document all the process of going maybe through Pro-Am into Pro Spec into Pro, assuming he can, which is bizarre to me. And you know, I just saw something recently where he's like sharing spreadsheets of budget and like his like what it's going to take to get this shit done. I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Like, stop. You know, like, dude, just
that puts the wrong impression to the people that actually want to get into this sport.
You make it, if you treat it like a job, it'll treat you like a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's when it becomes less fun.
Yeah.
It's rad that I'm able to make a career out of this, and that so many people are able to make careers out of drifting. I love that. And every now and then I feel like I'm on the clock, but then I'm like, okay, chill. Like, what can I change in the moment for the future to not have that on the clock feeling? Like, and I think a lot of people see it like these tourists, they see it as like, oh, no one's doing this. Let's go in there. Let's try this. And we'll just clean house. Best thing about those people is drifting takes care of itself, dude. There's a rotating door, man. And it's not that we have to talk shit about these guys or treat them like shit or like gang up on them or whatever. Drifting takes care of that, dude. Going back to what I was saying, it's still so young, so new, dude. If you're not contributing in some way,
it'll eat you alive.
It'll chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
Whether it's as a driver, because as a driver, you're a contributor. You're going to events. Mm-hmm. You're helping with these track rental fees. Everything's contributing.
Yeah.
Everything. Well, I guess what I'm saying is there are ways for everyone to contribute. So like, if you're contributing, you can ride this wave as long as anyone. But there are so many people that come in, and it's not necessarily like dick swing stuff, like I'm better than y'all or whatever, but they don't see it for what it is. They never get involved with community. Mm. They never,
all they see is the show aspect.
Yeah. And we don't have to say a word or do a thing.
Yeah.
They're here for a year and they're gone. Not just drivers, events, brands, content creators, whatever. They come in. Those people show up, people talk shit. But most of us were like, whatever. They're going to be gone in a year.
Yeah.
A couple years,
let
whatever.
It ride.
And
I've enjoy the entertainment as we go.
Dude, I've called it like a crystal ball. Shit'll pop up, and I'll be like, dude, this isn't going to work. And I've talked to some of these people. I've talked to some of these people before they launched it, while they're doing it or whatever. And if in a situation like that where, before they launch this brand or whatever, this project, and I say, dude, I don't think that's it. Like, I think you're going about this wrong, and that's not what drifting needs. Then they do it, and like, told you, and I go, yeah, you're not done yet, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you got an event or two under your belt, you got one season under your belt. Like, I've been a part of them, dude. Yeah. Like, and I think it's safe to talk about it. Like, Clutch Kickers, dude. Clutch Kickers was.
I called that. Y'all can go back to the episodes.
Not to discredit you, but I think a lot of people.
I got that from Aaron Losey 3 years ago when they first started, which he said it back then in some interview. I don't even remember who it was with.
Yeah,
but he was like, my personal opinion is that I think it's someone with a lot of inheritance that really loves drifting and just wants to help the sport, but I don't think it's obtainable. There's no way to, or sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, but even still, let's say, because it was a dude who loved drifting and his dad had the funding. That's sick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like people like, dude, if I had rich parents, if I had fucking rich parents that were down,
we would all be doing it.
Show me somebody to be like, no, I'm going to earn my own money to do this. No, dude, take it.
Grow up.
If you talk to their parents or the people that raise this or earn this money, that's what they want that money for. They want to share it with like their kids or whatever. So that's all fine. I guess I've given up caring where people's money comes from, unless it negatively affects me or other people.
Yeah.
I don't care if you come from a rich family or you won the lottery or what. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. The sustainability is what concerns me, you know, and also like there was a lot of control that needed to be relinquished to others on the team. We were like, hey, why don't you let us handle that? Let us do that. Like, if you want to achieve this particular goal, kind of let us trust us. You know, again, trust the process. We've been collectively combined there. He had like 40 years of experience. Like he had those guys had what they needed to succeed. And that's not me like, you know, they were lucky to have me. That's not what I'm saying. But there was a lot of stuff that I saw and others, that we could have avoided a lot of stuff. And
I simply think this is just an outsider perspective of from a viewer standpoint. I've only been to one event, but if they would have cut the earnings even by
half,
even 25%, take 25% off and make it a $75,000 series.
It's so funny you say this.
It's like, dude, all of that money would have went to people like you to handle the operations of the track, people to prep the track, people to run the media, because their media was phenomenal. They dumped it.
The stream
seems
was
like
great.
all of their money in media.
The stream was great, dude. Austin and Matt, that were at the helm. That they were I mean, there was a lot of other creators that ended up going and shooting there. Austin and Matt, which were staff media, they did great, still do great. The stream was great. But I mean, even for us, it's not like we were like 100K. I wish we got. Dude, they took care of us. Like, you know, like I told them my rate. They didn't negotiate with me. And I didn't gouge them. I didn't, you know, like extort it because it was a $100,000 series. I got paid my rate, and that was cool. Yeah. And we got paid on time. What it was, I looked at it and you know, I'm not like exposing anything here. Like this is a conversation I've had with a lot of people, and it's something that I'm not uncomfortable, and I don't think I'm like bad mouthing. I'm going to say this because we've all seen a lot of stuff come and go. People try shit, and you know, sometimes it doesn't work out. So that's what happened here. I'm not talking bad about these guys, but one of my concerns was, hey man, like $100,000 series. Here's one of the first issues with that is, you can never be a $99,000 series. Can't go back. Because if you go from 100 to 50 or 100 to 99, someone's going to go, what happened?
Yeah.
Where's that other grand? Where's that other 50 grand? So you're already limiting yourself quite a bit. Mm-hmm. You're giving yourself pretty big shoes to fill. Because not only can you not go back, you're going to need to show progression soon. Very soon. Because the changes, the progression you want to see, especially from an event series, but a lot of brands, like, dude, if a shoe company comes out and they've got 3 shoes in the first year, it's going to be a year and somebody goes, dude, do you have any new designs yet?
Yeah. Restaurant
opens, you got 5 dishes. You're not going to cook anything else? You're going to try anything else? You start a $100,000 series, it's not going to be long until somebody goes, so what about 150? You're going to up that? We're going to go for more?
Yeah.
Because we've all been paid now, and like dude, you've given yourself really, really big shoes to fill. So that's what I said. I go, okay, well, you got 100. What about 50? No one else is doing that right now. Not a series. There might be like shootout, what are cash grab stuff. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you're doing a series, if you do a $20,000 series, people are still going to come.
Definitely.
Know? But they had very big eyes. And again, I'm not saying this like in a shit talk way. They weren't involved in community like the majority of us, or a lot of us were. And you know, that involvement in community and all that experience that I was talking about, we had a better idea of what to expect. So it wasn't like, fuck it, let's get paid. We wanted that to succeed.
Yeah. Everyone did, man.
We put a lot of ourselves. We put a lot of ourselves into that. And I'm not saying, oh, they really let us down. It sucked. It sucked that it didn't work out. But you know, I got my one, because I was there with year 1, 2020 is when I did it, which was sick. 2020 was a rough year for everyone in some way or another. And I think, you know, we all kind of went through it where we're like, oh, like as event coordinators and even as drivers, you're like, fuck, like if we can't all get together, if we all got to stay home, what are we going to do with drifting? What are we going to do with events? You know? But it worked out. They just streamed more. We, you know, whatever, our drivers are in helmets and suits. And, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm safe from everything when I'm on track. So like, who cares? So it was cool for those of us that were a part of it in 2020. It gave us something to do, and it gave us a good way to like get through that rough year. And it took off, man. I mean, it really did. Like that was the talk of the town, clutch kickers, you know, and they were, before you left, they were paying out. And I was like, dude, this is the real thing. This is the real deal. Yeah. But sustainability, man. I don't think they were ever prepared, even as big as I know they wanted it to be. I don't know if they were ever prepared for it to be that big.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know?
Yeah.
I think they were like, oh, if we keep doing this, like a field of dreams, if we build it, they will come.
Yeah. If we build it up high enough from the jump.
Yeah. You know, people are going to start spending more money.
Out.
No, not
it doesn't
necessarily.
work that way.
So thankfully, you know, I met Zach Poloff, Webb Travis, Noah Donatelli, a lot of the team, the core team of clutch kickers. You know, those three dudes specifically were at LS Fest with me.
Yeah.
Zach and Webb came back for Ford Fest, and they've been with me pretty much ever since I met them in 2020 to some degree. They've been doing other events with me, so that's one of the cool things that I get from doing all these different events is I kind of get to like cherry pick like and it's not even like the best ones. It's
the prospect a little bit.
Zach is great, Webb is great, Noah is great, but like if we work well together, or if there's something in particular that you're really good at, or availability. Just if someone's available to work and they have experience. So it's really cool for me specifically to do different events and like get these contacts and be like, hey, like I might need you in the future. But there's a lot I'm thankful for that happened at Clutch Kickers. But it sucks that a lot of us kind of saw it coming.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Well, branching off of that, what is something that you would say event hosts or anyone trying to host events or series, the main things they probably need to focus on to keep things successful?
Listen to the drivers. Listen to the drivers, but don't let the drivers run the event. And drivers that hearing me say that, y'all have to be told what to do. Like, you've got other stuff to worry about.
Yeah.
Cars, crew, qualifying, competition. Even if it's not even competition, like, focus on driving, you know? Again, not to take a voice from the drivers. I'm not doing that. But, like, coordinators, good coordinators, have things set up, you know, a certain way for a reason. But I think it would be good to see. I think it would just be good to see coordinators continue to like focus on their community of drivers, and I can't even say like local community anymore because there's so many events that get a lot of online exposure and coverage and brings drivers from all over. Yeah. It's that interaction, and it's, you know, go to other events, watch other events, and take notes, pros and cons list. Like, I like this. I like how they did this. I would never want to do this or whatever, you know, like this didn't work. Don't do that. Or, you know, this didn't work. Do it differently or whatever the case. Because when I do watch other events or rarely like attend other events, the majority of stuff that stands out to me is stuff that I would not do or stuff that I would do differently. But there's been a lot of times. That's one of the reasons I wished I could have been in Poland.
Yeah.
Selfishly. Yeah. Because I want to be like, I want to see how they did that. I want to learn. Dude, if you don't think after working with Drift Games the first time a couple of years ago that I didn't walk away with something, you're wrong. No. That day, like before day one was over, because I told you like Pat and I were kind of like, I think Pat said he was too. We were both kind of like nervous. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what to expect, and even though like him and I had both done a lot of events at OSW and this, that, and the other, it was Drift Games show, like the production. So we were kind of like passengers. We were like along for the ride. So we started out kind of like, I don't know, before the end of day one, him and I were both like, this shit rips, dude. Like, this is it.
This is the move.
So watch events, right? Coordinators, drivers, content creators, everyone watch other events. And if you can remember to watch it from like a communal point of view, not just as a spectator. If you're in a position to coordinate an event, to host an event, look at stuff that you would want to do and not want to do. As a driver, set that expectation. You want this, you don't want that. Because as a coordinator, I've been doing this so long, and the teams that I work with have been doing this for so long. What we say in the meeting is pretty much set in the stone before. Like, we don't go into meetings being like, so what do y'all want to do?
Yeah.
That blows my mind when I go to events and somebody in a meeting will be like, what do y'all think about this? Fuck what they think.
Mm-hmm.
You should know whether or not the drivers are going to understand it. You should know this is why you need to do it this certain way. Tell them.
Yeah.
Because also, if you start asking, what do y'all want to do? They break their focus as a driver.
Yeah, and that opens up opportunities for arguments and all sorts of stupid
stuff. And then a 30-minute meeting
that
will take 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or you're out there repainting the track or moving shit around, and like, then someone's going to go, well, I just practiced on that layout for 2 hours and now you're doing this. Like, no.
Just for at the end of the day, for someone to bitch about not getting enough seat time.
Come on, man. So, no, I think all of us, those contributing members of this community, you watch drifting, watch it from a communal point of view and start making those lists of the things you like and the things you don't like, because with the question of like I think you asked what are the things that I don't like, or what things that I would change, or
yeah, what stuff that has changed that you don't necessarily like, or stuff that you think should change.
I think we need to just be, remember that we are still at that point where if you contribute, like, you'll be around as long as you want to be. So just, let's contribute. Let's work together and stuff, because
don't be in the sport for selfish reasons.
Yeah. And also, like, dude, before I say what I'm about to say, there's a lot of ugly cars. There's a lot of bad drivers. There's a lot of dipshits in drifting. I mean, there's a lot of people that I don't want to be on track with. And there's a lot of cars I don't want to be in photos or videos with just because they're ugly or they're junky or whatever. And this isn't a respect all builds angle that I'm taking here, but stop drawing lines in the sand. There's so many people who are like, I don't like competition drifting. I don't like Japanese style drifting. I don't like American style. Dude, who cares?
Yeah.
And that's fine. You don't have to like it. Shut up, dude. And stop with the lynch mob mentality of, let me get 3 or 4 or 5, 20 of my friends that don't like the same shit I don't like. Why don't you all get together and talk about the shit you do like? Post about that.
Yep.
Be defined by what you like and what you want to see more of, not what you don't like and what you don't. It's not going to make that shit go away. If you don't like it, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
I say all the time, I'm not fond of competition driving, but
that's fine. Dude, and
it doesn't
honestly,
matter to me. Like, go compete if you want, whatever.
As flattering and as humbling as it is for someone to be like, you run the best grid. Thank you. If I'm running a competition grid, dude, you can get anybody to do that. It's 2 cars at a time, dude. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the majority of what I'm doing, I'm out there. Sending cars is a tiny % of what I'm doing when I'm there. But I do appreciate drivers that appreciate me. And so that doesn't go unheard, right? But competition driving is competition driving. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's not like I enjoy, but competition driving is also a better spectacle. There's more structure to it, especially for like an organic, like, new fan or whatever, like just like strictly a fan. Because the majority of people that you and I interact with, we're connected. We're initiated into this community some way,
Yeah.
right?
We have some part in it. We're not
Some
just
part.
outside.
Whether we
viewer.
know drivers or we know teams or creators or whatever, we're initiated and we're connected. So these fans, like just fans, competition driving has more structure. It has more description. It has more, there's more of a production to it and gives them something to follow along with. So I understand why, the reasons why competition drifting is, why it is what it is. My, not argument, but my rebuttal to, not to say that you took this angle because you didn't, but some people are like competition driving is stupid.
Yeah.
Hate it or whatever. Yeah. Like, okay, first calm down. Like, second of all,
I've said that specifically.
No, and that's fine.
But I will always back up. Like, there's nothing wrong with competitive driving.
The pie is big enough for everyone to get a slice.
Yeah. I just enjoy the showman aspect of it. I love that.
I think all of us that are part of like the community enjoy it more too.
Yeah.
The expression.
I genuinely think everyone in drifting, every single person enjoys the showman aspect of it.
For sure.
You just might have a little bit of a competitive edge.
Right.
But deep down, like, we're here to have fun and put on a show.
Absolutely. I just, so, is there something that I would want to change in drifting? It's that. And attitude. Honestly, dude, that's not me on, like saying like what everyone's doing wrong. I'm just as guilty. Yeah. Honestly, the majority of the time I've been doing this, I was that way.
Yeah. Nate said it best, man. If you're drifting, you're winning.
Yeah, 100%. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to look at it. And that's something that him and I talk about a lot. I was like, I think him more than anyone. And it's like, dude, it's crazy. Like where drifting's brought us and like the opportunities that it's afforded us and presented us.
I have to tell myself that all the time.
Yeah.
I get too caught up and beat down on myself all the time.
Or you see something, you're like, dude, fuck this. You're like, that's so stupid, or I can't believe that. Dude, and there have been times where I'm like something a new driver or a new series or a new whatever will like trend. It'll be like the big thing of whatever year. And I'm like, fuck that thing. Fuck, but no, like, just worry about yourself, man.
Yeah.
Worry about yourself. Focus on your craft. Whether it's, content, whether it's events, it's driving, it's building cars, designing parts or whatever. Just stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. Stay in your lane. Because you're not going to be the only one in that lane. You're going to find people to link up with, and you're going to find like-minded friends and colleagues. And, there's going to come a point where, you're not going to agree with the way things are. But again, like, I'm trying to remind myself to focus on and bring attention to the things that I like most, rather than the things that I don't like.
Yeah.
Because drifting is a very toxic community. It's a very poisonous place.
Yeah.
Because if I get on a platform and I say something that I love or I like, or like something great happened, a few people are going to comment, maybe somebody shares it.
Yeah.
But if I get on that same platform and I say, this thing is trash, this person screwed me over, talk shit on that series, or this is whack as hell and this is where they fucked up, people are going to be like, hell yeah, fuck that. Or they're going to get in there and start arguing. And I'm going to get 100 shares and 500 comments. I'm not saying it's not me. I'm not saying it's a popular thing. Anybody. It's just like a bad review. People are more inclined to give a bad review than a good one.
I tell people because I do media for a living for drivers, companies, whatever. And I always tell them, like, negative content is technically your best content.
Right.
Your failures are going to be your best content.
Right.
But I would always tell them the failures part. So whatever you fail on, make sure that's content.
Yeah.
But like negative stuff,
the failures humanize us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like negative stuff, that's going to get you views, but it's not the views you want.
Yeah.
I learned that with this podcast. I've made some reels when I first started this that were questionable. Like I probably shouldn't have.
Right.
And those people that it was about, I've personally DM'd and apologized and stuff myself. But in the long run, that stuff just doesn't work.
Right.
The negativity is just irrelevant. But that's what our lives are now.
Yeah.
Social media has completely ruined that for us.
Yeah. I mean,
Technology in general. But.
Well, just I think it's how we harness it, because you hear people all the time like, oh, I just need to take a break from Instagram, or if you see this post, lucky you, I didn't unfriend you. Like, ugh, gross. Grow up.
Yeah.
Like, if you need a break, take a break. We don't need to know about it.
I would have rather you just unfriended me.
Yeah.
Or I'll do it for you.
Or you need to work on that. Like, it's their problem.
Yeah.
Like, if they're looking at too much shit, I'm not making them. You know what I mean? Like, and
don't play victim, because you do it to yourself.
Do it to yourself. No one's holding that phone or that tablet in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
Set it down. You know? So not to get into like,
we ain't gotta go.
Let's get back on drifting. But we see it often. And it's the same way with like the negativity stuff, like or the negative stuff where someone will I've seen it more than ever, recently, more than ever. And it makes me happy that more people are pointing that out, how toxic drifting is, and or how toxic drifting can be, how poisonous it can be. And I'm glad more people are noticing that, because that means more people are either taking action or want to take action. So I love that. I mean, it helped open my eyes to a lot of it too, because I was like, damn, like they're right. Dude, working for Grid Life was I had to be housebroken with Grid Life. Dude, I was a hard case when I started working at Grid Life back in 2016. I linked up with them at SEMA in 2015, and it was, again, a very flattering conversation. Chris Stewart, owner of Grid Life, like, found me at SEMA at Gran Turismo party, and he's like, here's what I'm doing, here's the goal, and you're the guy. I talk to anybody, I talk to everybody about this, and you're the guy. Like, him and I had never crossed paths before, and he doesn't come from drifting, but he would talk to people that were, and he was like, you're the guy. Everyone tells me you're the guy. Cool, thank you. Took the gig, right? So that was into 15, 16 we start. And so I go in, tough guy. Yeah. Drivers, put a hand up, put your hand down. This isn't questions. This isn't question and answer. My way or no way. Like, shut up. This isn't a discussion. This is how we're gonna do it. If you suck, you're out. And if you are great, like, you can come back.
Yeah.
And there were, that's how things were for a while. That's how drivers' meetings and events were run for a while. So there were a lot of drivers there that were like, okay, whatever. There were some drivers who were like, what the fuck? And there were a lot of people, everyone at Grid Life was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I was like, trust it. Of course. Yeah. This is what works. Y'all don't know these people like I know these people. Trust it. Wasn't long till they were like, Swann, like, chill. Like, you don't need to be that way. And I go, yeah, I do. They won't listen otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get through to them unless you're like abusive, essentially. And they were like, nah. I mean, yeah, trust me. They were like, Swann, like, we run, like, we're doing events too. Like, we're having drivers meetings for HPDE, time attack, whatever. Sorry. Yeah, it's just the same shit. So, and shout out Adam Jabay and Chris Stewart, because I know they put their heads together to do this and kind of like pull the rug out from under me, because it was Road Atlanta. I think it's probably the second year we were doing Grid Life at Road Atlanta. I noticed on the schedule, and they were like 7:30 or whatever, 8 a.m. drivers meeting, all drivers. Yeah. Normally before then, and we've gotten back to it, it was like an early 7:30, 8 a.m. meeting for time attack, GLTC, like whatever, because they're the first drivers on.
Yeah.
Where the drift session, the first drift session of the day is not until 1 p.m. sometimes. So our meeting doesn't need to be 5 hours before the session. So we'll have a drift specific meeting at like 10 or 11, whatever. Everyone, all the drivers appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, but there was a time that, like I think it was year 2 Atlanta. And I look on the schedule and I go, I got all drivers, drift included, 7:30 in the morning. The fuck is this? So I go, because I'm staff, I got to be there. So I get there, and I notice there's like maybe 5 of like 100. It was like 5 out of like a lot of drivers that are actually there. And
well, nobody finna come that early.
But it was weird because I was like, okay, they want me at this meeting, so I guess we're going to do the drift meeting during this meeting. And so Jabay runs through his spiel. Great at it. Does a great meeting. At the time, I thought I was like, man, that's kind of corny. You know, like he's like,
yeah, of course.
but he's just being positive. And I'm like, okay, whatever, dork. And then he's like, all right, that's it. And he dismisses everyone. I go, am I not going to do it? He goes, no, that's the meeting. What the fuck am I doing here?
Oh, hell no.
And then, because I only had like 5 drift drivers at that meeting, he called a drift specific meeting a little later. And he was like, hey, you know, we'll do a drift specific meeting since, you know, not everyone was there. I go, okay, cool. And in my mind, I'm like, that's the meeting I'm going to run. So we gather everybody up and he runs the meeting. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Again, why am I here?
What's going on here? He was showing me and proving to me that you didn't have to be a dick. And he was doing it so well. He was being so positive and playful with these drivers. And teaching them stuff that, like, dude, you come drive a grid life event, you start learning flags. There are FD drivers that don't know flags. Like,
I don't know flags.
Right, like road course flags. So we're implementing that into grid life with all the different road courses we go to. And it just kind of like adds to like the experience, you know, for these drivers to get that, to like kind of like check that off their list. But yeah, I that year at Atlanta, I go, all right, why don't you just run? I go, why do I need to even be at the meetings? And he was like, I'm just showing you how it can be. Like,
yeah.
And to this day, if I have to, I will. I don't like doing meetings without Adam. Not because I'm still a hard case. Like I've for lack of better terms, like softened up a bit, a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, really chilled out and made it more like, fun and easy and approachable and more of like an open forum, you know, for the drivers to chat about stuff. But, Adam's just so great at what he does. Adam Jabay is co-founder of Grid Life, but he's the motorsports director. So, Adam's got a lot on his plate. Adam doesn't need to be at those meetings. He's got a million other things he could be doing. But he's so good at it. And working with Adam and working for Adam has taught me so much about better ways to get through to and communicate with drivers. Yeah. Because for the first, in 16, so for almost 10 years, like 8 years at that point, I've been running events like a hard ass. Yeah. Like my way or the highway, don't ask questions. If you don't understand, don't ever come back. You know, like, and fortunately I saw like, you know, that we had options. I saw that that's not how it needed to be run. And there are still people that run their events that way and treat the drivers that way. And, I hear about it. I hear about it when these drivers come to, one of my events. They go, hey man, like really appreciate how you talked to us in that meeting. You know, I really appreciate like, you know, like the things you know, they'll tell me like the things that I communicate to them or like the way that I do things or whatever, however I word things. That's all you got to do is just like word it a little more delicately and make it feel like more of a team, like a group effort. So
there is a special way to talk to people, especially a crowd of people.
Oh yeah. Words mean things. Words mean things.
I've been listening and watching some videos on that recently just so I can kind of, you know, I'm finding myself in these more business oriented scenarios. Right. I want to sound a little bit more professional and stuff like that. So it's pretty unique how the brain works and how it receives communication.
Right. Like trigger words and things that we look for or that stand out to us. Things that make us like shut down or things that make us more receptive. Mm. And I think that I was taught, not like as a child, but like once I started like running events, I think maybe when I was really sharpening my teeth I was learning from people that just wanted to run, just make things as hard as possible. You know?
Okay.
So that's what I carried for years. I didn't know any other way. I didn't think there was any other way.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was cool. I'll never forget like that when everything shifted right around 16, working for Grid Life, because it's been such a privilege and such an honor to like work with those guys for, gosh, you know, I guess for me, 8 years. Grid Life Midwest. This was the 10th year. 2023 was the 10th year for that event. But I've been with them for 8, so it's been fun to be at an event that has more than just drifting.
Yeah,
because you learn so much from like different motorsports, different communities, coordinators, all this stuff. So
hell yeah, I got to experience a Grid Life, man.
Oh, you never been to one?
Still have
Dude,
not.
yeah, you got to.
I'm planning on this year
to
come to a couple of them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work it out with some sponsors.
Yeah,
and stuff,
the nearest one for us in the South. Schedule's not out yet. I do not know for a fact, but you know, last year we went to, excuse me, in 23 earlier this year we went to Carolina Motorsports Park.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I can't remember how long of a drive that was, but pretty sure at least there's probably discussion of us going back there.
Hell yeah!
So that's a fun one. It's a cool like season kickoff event. I think we did it in March or April. But it was fun. If you have one to choose from, Midwest. I mean, it's home base, dude. That's like that's the foundation. It's ground zero for Grid Life, dude. It's the full pull. I mean, it's the full experience. I mean, it's an EDM crowd, like, but it's also like that event. I mean, dude, everyone's having concerts at events now, right? You see this all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, you'll be walking the pits noon, 2 p.m. on a Friday or Saturday, and you'll see like festival goers, like fully dressed, like the festival type
rave outfits,
and stuff, fuzzy boots and fishnets and like fucking
my girl, she's big into EDM stuff.
That's dope, dude. Like, because that's a vibe. People come to Grid Life Midwest for the music, and they happen to see race
experience the drift.
It's such a cross pollination of between like the music crowd and the motorsports crowd.
That's why I want to go to one so bad.
It's wild. And we see that more at Midwest than any other place, because like the few years we did Atlanta, we had, I think we dabbled with like some like more like rock style bands one year. Dude, Andrew WK played, which was sick.
Hell yeah.
And then one year like Ludacris was headliner.
Nice.
Killer Mike, shout out Killer Mike and Run the Jewels. Mike's a homie of Grid Life and a big supporter. He performed for us one year, and it was so sick, 'cause it was like, it's never just Mike. Like Killer Mike like brought some homies.
Yeah.
Did a lot of collab shit. So that was a big night. Then so we did Alpine Horizon Festival in Colorado Springs for a few years. The biggest one we did was Suicide Boys. Right. Suicide Boys, Young Gravy, more of like a hip hop crowd out there. And a couple weeks from now, which will be our first Laguna Seca event, the festival we're doing there, T-Pain's headlining. So T-Pain, as you know, has become a homie of drifting in general. He's one of us.
Oh yeah. I've gotten to meet his mechanics and stuff. Up at Lanier.
Yeah, good crew of dudes. Pain's one of us, dude. It's funny because I think we're all always going to be like the T-Pain, really. But then in the moment when you're at the track, you're like, "What's up, Pain?" He's just one of us.
Dude, yeah.
He's just there jamming, dude, and he gives a shit, dude. Like, he really likes drifting. He loves drifting.
Yeah, I saw that at the 4th of July event. That was the first time I actually saw him in person.
That's the first time I saw him like ripping laps, and I go, dude, not that you asked, but I got to tell you, dude, you're fucking shredding.
You're actually kind of good, dude. Like, what the hell?
I told him, I've seen such a progression.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, yeah, cool, thanks. He was like, dude, thank you. And then even more so, Lime Rock this year, because he came to Lime Rock for Grid Life Circuit Legends. And, dude, he's ripping door banging laps with Hurt. Like shredding with Hurt. full course stuff
Yeah.
at Lime Rock. I think that was, and it's not because it's T-Pain. I think that was probably that was one of the highlights, if not the highlight of the drift driving at Lime Rock for me, was seeing how far Payne has come. It's so sick.
Yeah.
And I told, like, I think it was like after the Saturday session. First off, it was just an emotional one, like the last session we did on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was end of the day Saturday. And I remember like walking back into the paddock, and maybe him and Hurt were like filming something. Can't remember what it was, but I was like, I don't fucking care. I had to walk in. I walked up, interrupted it, just hugged him. I go, dude.
Yep.
You just got to know. You got to know how pumped I am. Not that I think it ever makes any driver feel validated to hear from me. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a driver or a car builder. But as a kid, I'm just fucking proud of you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm proud to see the progression because I love seeing people love drifting. Yeah. Love it.
I'm sure it means a lot to them because you're a respected guy in the sport.
Yeah, he shared something that I posted on Instagram.
Oh yeah, flex that real quick.
No, it was cool though, just to see that connection, to see it click for him. And I was asking you earlier, like when it clicked for you. I love seeing it click for people.
I agree,
and I just love, and it
especially
could be,
in kids.
Oh,
seeing
dude,
that,
it's so rad. It's so rad. We're talking about Reese constantly, earlier before we
those moments trump any other moment in drifting for me.
You see, but it's wild to me to see, like, you talking about seeing it click with kids, and then like a couple years later, like, damn, they're driving.
Yeah,
you
have your license already,
right, dude? Canada, and forgive me for not knowing his last name. He's driving in Prospect. Jordan.
I think his name's Jay. Or no, maybe it is Jordan.
Jordan.
Something the Drifter on Instagram. Yeah.
Jay the Drifter.
I've reached out to him.
Jay the Drifter. His name's Jordan. Oh, man. Motorana.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and sorry for not knowing how to pronounce your last name, Jordan. But yeah, but it's sick, though. It's sick to see that, the younger they're getting. I think it was it also Ford Fest? I had a driver. Yeah, there was, it's Cash Staub.
Yeah.
Red Fox.
Yeah.
He's 17.
Cash is awesome.
He's 17. Yeah. So,
Well, I always think of Cabot, too.
Yeah, dude, Cabot.
Because I drove with him at Stupid Cold, that event.
Yeah.
When I think he was 16 at the time.
Nuts.
And dude, he was tandeming behind me like it was no problem. I was like, yeah, because how did you learn this?
But here's the thing, though. People are like, oh, it's crazy because they're so young or whatever. I go, no, that's why they're so good.
Yeah.
Because you have to break yourself of like normal day-to-day driving when you learn how to drive a race car. If you're 14, 15, 16, you don't know what that's like. Fuck it, I'm going to crash this fucking car, dude. Like,
it's just a video game at that point.
Video game.
Literally all it is.
And especially now with everyone coming from sim. Like everyone's getting so many sim laps and getting so much experience. I mean, having drivers show up to a track they've never been to, first lap out.
Link the entire thing. Just
like,
they did it on the fucking
I've been driving this thing on the sim for a month. I go, dude, what?
Yeah.
So,
and I suck at the sim. I'll say that every time I suck at it. I can't get it. I don't know what it is.
Just
going from driving to sim just you can't comprehend it right.
I feel like, and I don't speak from experience, but talking to drivers that either talking to people that either play sim a lot or do both sim and actually drive, it takes time. Like you have to build that muscle memory.
No matter what.
So, but so much of it translates.
Yeah.
Like it teaches you so much about car setup and adjustments and certain tracks and all this
it
stuff.
builds that second nature
Yeah.
to the driving and being able to drift. So like shifting gears, or one big thing that like at the time I was extremely embarrassed about. Now I don't give a fuck if anyone knows. But at MIR, my first event was at a Stupid Cold.
Okay.
So I didn't know how to use the handbrake. Installed it, did everything to do it, and I just didn't know. I didn't know you were supposed to push the clutch in whenever you rip the handbrake.
Right.
And so, like, stuff like that, you would learn in the game that would set you up to be able to drive to where you don't have to think about those natural reflexes in drifting.
Right.
So that's how I see it helping. Other than that, I mean, really nothing. You can train yourself on the tandeming, the reflexes for tandeming.
Sure, yeah.
But like, dude, it's just it's a completely different ball.
I like
game,
what it. I think I like what it can do to teach setup changes.
Yeah,
because I mean, there's so
Scott says it well. He says it'll teach you to drive multiple cars.
Yeah,
and learning to drift in a car will just teach you to drive one car.
Right.
Sim all of them.
Right. And it'll teach you what certain changes do. Like if you toe in, toe out. Like if you take pressure out, add pressure. Like whatever the changes to the setup may be, you can learn those quickly and safely in sim. Whereas in real life, it might be hard to really focus on and feel and notice those small changes. If you're doing them just in real life, but on sim, you don't have the distractions or the pressure or the stress, of driving in real life, in real time.
That fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even with walls, you're not scared to hit a wall on a video game.
Right. Yeah. So. It doesn't matter. But in real life, like it changes everything. But if you get enough laps on the sim, like where to put the car, you have a better idea of where to put the car and what kind of speed to carry into it and things like that. So.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into this new segment that I want to try out.
Okay.
With some follower questions. So I only got 4 of them.
Cool.
But Max Furist, do you know who that is?
I know Max. Yeah, okay. Max First. Yeah.
So he asked, this was kind of funny. Who is your favorite driver, and why is it Pat Gooden?
Oh,
that was his words verbatim. So
that's perfect. Pat Gooden is my favorite driver because, dude, Pat gives more of a shit than anybody. I mean,
he's a goober sometimes. I will say that, but he's funny.
Pat is. So when I say someone's goober, I think of something different. Pat is the funniest person I know. Pat's the funniest person I know.
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's how you know he's vibing. Like that's how you know he's grooved in when he's cutting up and having a good time. And because for being the funniest person I know, he's also one of the most serious people I know. Like I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that loved drifting more than Pat Gooden. Yeah. Which makes him a great judge, makes him a great driver. And I was talking about Nate earlier and how much he's experienced and all the stuff that he's seen over the years and the ups and the downs. And, super similar with Pat. Like Pat's done so much and he's been around for so long. But he understands drifting so well and understands the mechanics of it. I forget how great Pat is at driving. And then I watch him and I almost like don't want to tell him because I'm like, yeah, he knows he's my best friend. So he's expecting me to be like, good job, buddy.
Yeah.
But I want to be like, dude, you're one of my favorite drivers to watch. And he is. Pat Gooden's one of my favorite. So Max crushed it with that question. Yeah, Pat's.
Hell yeah. All right. So we have October's Green, S Green or something. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't really see it either. But what is your favorite track and why? Damn, I can't see. These lights are fucking me up right now.
My favorite track. It's kind of one of those like from what perspective? Because I'm not a driver, right? So not everyone, so many drivers would be like, Road Atlanta was the best. Road Atlanta's cool. I think the best thing about Road Atlanta is the pavement itself. There's a lot of stuff about Road Atlanta that I don't miss it one bit, Lime Rock, man, special place. Lime Rock is a special place.
I want to try this so bad.
One of the most beautiful facilities maybe the most beautiful facility I've ever been to. Most accommodating. And dude, for being a full road course, it's not a big road course. They're quick laps. But like when we did Road Atlanta, even when we do Gingerman from Midwest, you can't link the whole track. Like you can try, but you're a dickhead. You're going to blow through a pair of tires in one lap. Lime Rock's a jam course, dude. It's all right turns, so your left rear goes immediately.
Yeah.
I'm getting off subject here. Yeah, but it's no, Lime Rock's for sure one of, if not my favorite track. AMP, man, Atlanta Motorsports Park. one for Drift HQ's 4th of July event. That is one of the wildest tracks I've ever been on. Have you made laps there? Have you?
Mm-mm.
The back section. So on the stream and most of the content you're gonna see like from like the front section of the track where I'm running actual start stop like grid.
You only see like 20-25% of the track, right?
Right. Well, I'd say it's about half.
About half?
You probably see about half of it. But dude, once it steps down about mid track and you get into that back section, the first year that I went, I think it was 3 years ago now. And shout out Drift HQ and Duarte and Savio. Savio is always the front man for that event, Grill Daddy. And so he I get the call, so I go out. First year I did it, I turroed a Supra, like a new Supra. And I think it was the first year. Whatever. I had a car.
Yeah.
I think it was the first year. Turroed the Supra. And I get there on because that event is always literally on the 4th because that's the only drift I do all year because of the noise ordinance, which has changed.
Oh, it's changed now?
So the noise ordinance is still there. A lot like other private tracks, the county or the city has issued a number of like limitless decibel days where they lift it.
Dude, no way.
Yeah. And I think, and I could be wrong, no one has said anything to me. I think it's because that event has always gone so well. And it's always been such a success. And to my knowledge, Drift HQ has a great reputation or a great relationship with AMP. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. So anyway,
that's a beautiful race play. Like just the facility itself. Yeah.
And like where it is, like in Dawsonville, like Georgia, where it is.
They got a pool.
They got a pool, dude.
That's right in the middle of the pit, bro.
So sick. But the first year, I can't remember what day it was because, like, again, it's always like this past year, it was on a Tuesday. I've never done a drift event on a Tuesday.
Dude, yeah, it was weird.
So strange there. But anyway, the first year I did it.
That was
I have a Supra, and I get there, and it's just load in day, and Savio's, and it's like, hey man, like I kind of want to pop out on track and like just check it out and see like, so I'm not blind in these drivers meetings. Like, I need to know what this track's like and what the drivers can expect. He's like, yeah, track's yours. He's like, just go out and make as many laps as you want. Go,
yeah. You sure about that?
He goes, yeah, there's nobody out there. It's our track, dude. And does anybody need to be with me? He goes, no, dude, track's yours. I go, copy that, brother.
You got it, buddy.
First lap out, I'm seriously, I'm kind of like just checking it out and like kind of like getting the lay of the land. And but I get into that back section, dude. You come around. It's literally like a left where it kind of steps down, and then it goes right again as it steps down again. So it's like a 1-2, and then you get to the bottom of the 2, and it's like a 90. It's a real like hard, quick 90. And as soon as you apex the 90, you're staring at a wall of pavement because it just goes straight.
Yeah.
And you hit that incline, and it's like taking off on an airplane, dude. You're just staring at the sky, and you can't see if it goes left or right. And it literally takes you to the tree line.
Yeah. Because I know that exact spot you're talking about. I've seen it so many times in video.
It's nuts,
but I know there's no way it compares.
Gnarly in person. And you get to the top. And so my first lap out, no one's with me. I haven't been on a sim. I didn't watch in-car. So I'm bombing. I go, I don't know if this shit goes left or right. So I mean, like, I cruise up to it, and it's like a hard right. It's like it's like not a hard right, but it's like almost like a 90 right.
Yeah.
To an immediate that downhill left. And you're literally like you're on the tree line. You get to the top of the hill to that right left, and you're on the tree line, dude. And it's like you can see like North Carolina from there, dude. Like it's nuts how far you can see. And then it just bombs you back down. Such a cool track. Such a cool track. To this day, I'm like, I think it's crazy to let us drift there.
Yeah.
And I'm always impressed. I'm always surprised at how well everyone does. I mean, I'm not back there to see like who's like actually blowing it, but like, you know, like it's not a messy event. Like there's not a, I mean, there's tows, there's cleanups, but it's nothing wild. So, but it's a gnarly track. AMP. So Lime Rock and AMP are two of my favorites. I'm worried if I don't mention another track or something, someone's be like, well, what about yada yada?
Someone's always gonna have something to say. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll leave it at those two. Those two are
those are good choices.
Are special places. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Hell yeah. All right, this one I have no idea where this came from. I even asked him. I was like, I gotta know why.
Oh, dude, this is.
So,
what did I tell you before the podcast?
I know, bro.
What did I tell you?
So, Greg from Koru Works. Greg, how do you say his last name again? Bucell.
Yeah,
okay.
Greg Bucell.
How does he take his hot dog? In parentheses, he has it's raw. He likes them uncooked.
Dude, no,
and raw.
Stop. Now, like a fucking savage, wet, cold dog. Greg, you're putting this out of context. This is way out of context. So here's the thing.
I can take this part out, dude. I don't know what it's about.
No, leave this in. This is the people need to hear this. Greg needs to know that I'm not shaken by this question and that I will own this. So, and dude, it happened once. Not to say like that was the only time it happened. He witnessed it once and lost his mind. Matter of fact, I was hanging out with his friends. It was after Grid Life, I think. It was after Grid Life Atlanta one year. Staying with him at his place downtown in Atlanta. And we're having like a pool day Sunday or Monday. He had some homies over. I knew a couple of them. And I can't remember I don't know if it didn't happen. This thing didn't happen. I just, the subject came up and I was like, then we're talking about like grilling food or whatever. And I go, dude, raw dogs get a bad rap, dude. Like, I'm not saying like that's the best way to enjoy a hot dog. Get in the comments if you raw dog. Okay, I think it's a one and done though. I think if anyone's like, dude, I'll eat an entire pack of cold hot dogs, you're disgusting. Oh. And Greg he asked the question out of context because he said, how does he take his hot dog? That's not how I would. Dude, a raw dog isn't even on the list, dude. But if you're in a pinch, dude, if you got to get out the door or whatever, you got some dogs in the house, dude, grab one to go, get a little road dog, no big deal. You munch one.
It's just like eating a Vienna sausage, but like
it's just same.
So funny, dude.
He flipped. He thought it was the nastiest shit he'd ever seen.
Oh my god!
It's not like a cold hot dog is like uncooked meat. It's processed meat.
It's already shit meat in general.
Dude,
but
it's all like who cares, dude? Like,
fuck, that's funny.
But I don't know why that. For someone who loves the shittiest version of chicken wings, Greg is a lemon pepper wet guy from American Deli, which Atlanta's going to come for me in the comments if this makes it in. Trash. Garbage wings. And he swears by him. So for him not to like a raw dog doesn't even faze me. I can get into the whole, dude, there's a whole like hierarchy of hot dogs. Big dog guy here. And I can, he worded it to make it sound like that's my go-to dog, and it just isn't, dude. Not even close.
That's why I was like, I gotta know the backstory, bro.
Not even close.
All right, well, I guess we'll hit this last question. This is actually from my buddy Jay. He was on the podcast. He does dabbling and tuning and stuff. But if you could, underworld.j is his Instagram. Okay. If you could do MDU over again, what would you do differently, and what set MDU apart from other Pro-Am series at the time?
I like this question. Man, MDU, that defined an era for me. It defined an era for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That was just one of those things you couldn't replicate it if you tried, because it was like a lot of things at the time. Right place, right time. More or less right time than right place. Because the Midwest's the country's largest region. So, and I think we weren't, I don't think we never were the only competition or even drifting organization in the region, but we were the FD Pro-Am at the time, back when Pro-Am was, I mean, it was like the Wild West back then, dude. Like, that's how you got licensed, was through competing in FD Pro-Am series. It's not, now it's like, yeah, there's like shootout events and
you can apply.
It's so much, not to discredit any drivers that are in Pro Spec or pursuing a Pro Spec license. It's easier now. It just is. It's just easier to get into FD, easier than it's ever been.
Which is cool to see. But like, it takes
it's cool to see, but it's also strange because it appears that it's easier than ever to get into FD, but FD is harder than it's ever been. It's more competitive than it's ever been. But if I could do MDU over again, what would I do differently? Differently, dude, we jammed. It's hard to. And what's crazy is I've never even thought about that. I've never thought about what I would do differently, because in the moment, that was that pioneering stage of drifting where there wasn't really a benchmark. There wasn't really, there's always a wrong way to do something, but there wasn't like the right way to do something.
Yeah.
If you were pulling it off, if you were getting drivers and those drivers came back, you were doing something right. Not only were they coming back, dude, I can't remember exactly. I want to say this was 2013 or 14. Round 1 of our season at a pretty whack track. Cool track, not great for drifting.
Yeah.
Lucas Oil Raceway Park in Indianapolis, where we were based out of.
Okay.
Wasn't the funnest, most challenging track. Or it was challenging because it just didn't flow well, but wasn't great for tandem, wasn't great for spectators, footage, anything. It was just kind of a meh track. Dude, round 1, and I'd have to go back and check or ask someone, 60 drivers.
No shit.
For a Pro-Am. Top
what
16.
Year was this?
13, 14.
That's quite a few drivers.
Chomping at the bit, dude. But here's the thing. That wasn't 60 drivers that wanted to, at the time, Pro 2 or an FD license.
Yeah.
They were MDU drivers. The license was fucking noise. That was like a bonus.
Yeah. It was just a
They
prize.
wanted to, it was MDU.
That's crazy.
Dude, again,
it's hard to build something.
Not throwing
like
shade at
now.
FD, dude, but we were running a show, a production, a ship just as tight as FD was at the time.
Yeah.
We weren't going after FD. We weren't trying to better anybody. We were looking to see what they did and trying to do as well. Trying to do just as.
Gotcha.
And we did. I really, really think we did.
Yeah.
Such a great team, man. A lot of those guys are still doing it. Drifting is alive and well. Oddly enough, never in Indiana. They have pretty much residency at Killcare Raceway in Xenia, Ohio, right outside of Dayton, which is a very special place too. I did a lot of events there over the years, and they still do. Edgar is still, is still front man for Drift Indy and brand owner and manager, and he's got a great staff of guys that a few of them were guys that I worked with. They were on the team when I was still there, and a few of the guys are people that drove back then that still drive to this day, but are more on the coordination side of things, clinics and stuff like that. His street league drifting is really taken off, and he's got a really cool series there. But Killcare, and I mean, most notably his No Star Bash. I think we did our first one in 2012-ish, 11, something like that.
Yeah.
But dude, he still gets 150 cars for that. It's 3 full days, and it's never like people drive the whole time. Luke Fink went and drove it this year because he happened to be stateside. It was the weekend after LS Fest. So he just drove a few hours north up in Ohio from Bowling Green and jammed with them. And he seemed to have, and of course they welcome him with open arms, but that's his like speed. Like that's his type of event.
Yeah.
Because it's a shit show, but it's a good event.
Yeah.
Not a shit show. Not a shit show like they don't know what they're doing. They do. They've been doing it forever. But it's, so I don't know what I would change about MDU. if there's one thing that I gotta like, for sake of answering this question, and it's not even a regret that I have, but 13, 14, and 15, we did MDU on the streets of Detroit.
Okay.
It was part of a Pro-Am series. It was a competition round. We put this event together from scratch in urban Detroit. Like,
oh boy.
what's funny is the property is owned by Ford now. I think Ford purchased it while we were still going there. I think it was up for purchase in 13. By 14, they owned it. 15, you could kind of start to see the renovations happening. I'll show you some links after we get done here, so you can see this. I get to do some pretty sick shit. I get to do some cool stuff. LZ World Tour is rad. Grid Life is changed, Millennial Motorsports. LS Fest, it's over a decade old, and we bring FD level competition to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I get to do a lot of really cool stuff. MDU Streets of Detroit, untouched. Will never be anything as cool as what I did there.
They're good.
What we did there. What I did with a great team. Yeah. It was an idea. It was not an accident, but it was like what we initially planned and proposed to the city is not what happened. It was by chance we went and got lunch at this one place, and we were like, what about this place? And it turned out to be imperfectly perfect. Like, it was nice. And there was so much history. Like, there was so much like pedigree there. The area that we chose, it's Roosevelt Park in historic Corktown, right outside of Detroit. And Ken Block's Gymkhana 10, the big, like, multiple locations Gymkhana video he did.
Yep.
The Mustang in Detroit. Mm-hmm. That's where we did it. No
shit.
And shout out Danger Dan Summer, who competed on the streets of Detroit. This was years before he worked for Hoonigan.
Yeah.
Dan was able to speak to the team from experience on. So it was really cool to see Ken do that there. And I can't help but thinking he saw what we did.
Oh, of course.
And that's not stardom.
Yeah.
That's not stardom. Ken was a world-class driver.
Yeah.
Ken was,
rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. But it was like, beat you to it, Ken. The building and it's funny, I don't even think they talked about this because they did that Amazon Prime series, right? The season of them filming it. I don't know if they even talked about this in the series, but the building that is the centerpiece of that area that's Michigan Central Station. Michigan Central Station was the train station that Ford used to get the Model Ts out to become the first mass-produced vehicle. That train station played an integral part in automotive history. We didn't know that when we did our event.
What the hell?
We learned quickly that's what it was. But we just saw this old, dilapidated, sick-looking, huge building with a really cool, like the way it was paved, because it was a park, not like jungle gyms and playgrounds and like fountains and shit, but it was a park. Roosevelt Park still is. But the way it was paved, the roads in, the roads out, it had this like semicircle in front of the train station, which we utilized, and just all the access roads in and out of this place.
That's insane.
We put this track together, this layout, and it was, dude, it was perfect.
Yeah.
In the weirdest way. Because there are drivers. I was just talking to this guy earlier today, Steve Topping. I go way, way back with him. Also from because Dan Summer, he's a St. Louis dude, and Topping's one of my St. Louis guys. He doesn't drive anymore, but he was competing at the same time. And it's so funny because Topping, and I'm sure other drivers will say this, they fucking hated that track. track. I call it a track. They hated that event
Yeah.
because, dude, we had curbs. Like, track limits were curbs. Topping took out a stop sign. Like, this was a street course.
Ooh, that's sketch.
Like, they literally had to patch the pavement. First or second year, they had to patch it because it was just tore up. Like, it's just street shit. The first year, to get from paddock to grid, you had to wait on a green light.
Oh, no way.
Light would turn green, the cars would filter out onto Michigan Avenue, and then immediately turn right again. And then we had grid staging was a street, and then the burnout box was an intersection.
What the hell?
The first year we had our driver's meeting in a burnt down house. Because it's Detroit, dude. It was literally there are photos of us standing in this living room of a burnt down house, speaking out of the bay window to the front yard where the drivers were. That was our driver's meeting. Second or third year we did it. So also shout out Mercury Bar, which is still there. Really rad local like restaurant bar venue, I believe. Great food, like local drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
They gave us their patio early that Saturday morning to do our driver's meeting. So always aesthetically, dude, that event untouched. It's wild. And I look back and I go, that shit was 10 years ago, dude. We pulled that off 10 years ago. None of us knew what we were doing. And that team that pulled that off, dude, one of the guys, lost him. He took his own life. RIP to my dude, George Vega. And then so there were so many others that we've just all kind of like branched out. Life happens, looking back though, I'm like, dude, it was and it was ragtag as it gets, dude. We were some fucking roughnecks. Yeah. And we'd stay out till 3 a.m. partying, and we had to be on location. Dude, it's not like you check into the park and there's a park ranger there that says, here's the keys. The city's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like, you pay. And it was like, Jesus, dude, it was pennies. It was pennies to get permission to do that. But they were like, you have to get security. You have to do this. You have to do that. That's why they had to wait on a green light to get to grid, because Detroit couldn't provide us with enough police to shut Michigan Avenue down. And so it was our security, and for closing the roads, we had to close the roads off in and out of the park. And they were like, yeah, there's a local construction company. They're going to dump a bunch of shit over there by where you're doing your event, and you can set it up however you want. So sure as shit, we show up that Saturday morning at 4 a.m. and there's just a pile of road closure stuff.
What?
And so that's what we had to use. No one was there to tell us we were doing it right or wrong.
That's hilarious.
We had a stack of permits, and every single year there was last minute drama. 2 of the 3 years we did that event, driving to Detroit, I didn't know if we were going to be able to pull that event off.
Oh,
I lost 10 years of my life doing that event. It was so stressful, dude. But every year we pulled it off. I'll never forget the first year. We finish up on Saturday, the first year in 13, and it's perfect golden hour. We just had some gnarly podium ceremony, and everybody's just like, what the fuck just happened? I'm just standing there and go, I can't believe. And I remember being there and go, I'm never doing this shit again. It was so stressful. It was, and then sure as shit, 2 more years. So, longest answer possible. What would I do different? I would do that for 2 more years. So as stressful as it was, I wanted 5 years. I wanted 5 years of that event.
Yeah.
That's some closure I'll never get. As much as I'm as proud as I am of that event, as much as I will always love that event, and it will forever be the coolest shit I've ever done, I wanted 2 more years. I wanted to do it for 5 years.
That would have been awesome.
So that's so Jay, there's your answer for that. And,
shout out to you, Jay. That was a good question.
Dude, I love that. I've never been asked that. And what set MDU apart from the other Pro-Am series at the time? The team.
Yeah.
The team. I can't say it enough, man. God, we were dialed. And if MDU lived to be 8 or 9 years old, I can't remember what it was, I think I was out a year before they stopped doing MDU. Mm-hmm. But I think I did it for 8. I think I did it MDU for 8 years. But over those 8 years, majority of it was track ops, running grid, whatever.
Yeah.
I judged a year or 2, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed judging. And then ended up just kind of like shifting into like overall operations management, but still was running grid. So, but dude, Edgar Sarmiento, T.R. Scrivener, Aaron Bledsoe, George Vega, rest in peace. Not just Brad Foy, Chusky. There's so many, not just staff members, Derek King, Derek Bianski, Team Breaking, Camden Fox at Fort Wayne guys, Brian Wagner out of Ohio, just Mike Fiok, did Bill High Life Cook, like all these, I could go on for hours, all these like founding fathers of Midwest drifting. The majority of those guys are still, you know, to some capacity doing it today, but those dudes, they were, I mean, we're brothers in arms, dude. Like we worked so hard building that brand and that series, and we did so much cool shit. And yeah, that's where I got that's my foundation. Like that's where I really kind of like found my direction. That's where like kind of like set the path before me. So I'll always love those dudes. And everyone that I mentioned played an integral part in Streets of Detroit, and so I owe them for that. Like I will be in debt to those guys forever, because everyone that had something to do with that event had something to do with the coolest shit I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah. Good. That was the question.
To experience it.
That was the question, dude. Fuck Greg's question and the dumbass hot dog shit. No, Jay hit it with that. That was a really good two-parter. I like that. So.
Oh yeah. Well, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up with your best piece of advice for someone just getting into drifting. Enjoy it, man. Yeah. Enjoy it. If you get to a point that you're not, take a step back. Don't take a season off. I'm not saying take a step back like that. What I'm saying is reevaluate. Because no one gets into this like, well, this is going to be hard work and, you know, I'm going to turn this into a job. Everyone gets into this because they love something about drifting. Yeah. We're all passionate. We have to be passionate about it. I've gotten there. You've gotten there. We're going to get there again. We see it every year. People are just like, oh, it's just too much. Yeah. Or I've got other stuff going on or whatever. Try and find that balance. Yeah. But man, just enjoy it. Like, don't fall out of love with drifting. Because if you fall out of love with drifting and you don't leave drifting, you're going to become bad for drifting. Yeah. Yeah, just enjoy it. And I hold myself accountable to that. Not every year, every event. Yeah. Because at some point during that event, guaranteed, if not more than once, fuck, man, I don't want to be here. Yeah. It's too early. It's too late. It's gonna rain. It's too cold. It's too hot. Or I'm too tired. Feeling at an event. You're just defeated. You're defeated before the session, before the event, before the gates open. You're just like, fuck this. Yeah. Or you get there and you're like, man, I got to get back home for this. Whatever. I'm not saying that stuff's not going to happen. It's going to happen. But just remember, like, no one held a gun to your head. No one made you go. You're there because you love it. Remember you love it. Enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy drifting. If you treat it like a job, it'll treat you like a job. Treat it like a passion. It's the best thing I can tell anybody, because that's the stuff I tell myself. You do what you love. You never work a day in your life. 100%, brother. So true. Hell yeah. Yeah. Well, if you want, plug yourself, plug your people. Oh, for anything like that. Yeah. So again, Nick Swann, _ Nick Swann _ on Instagram. There's my people. Yeah. Grid Life, LZ World Tour, the entire LZ team, Drift HQ team, Drift Games, Holly Performance, my guys in the event team, Sparky and Justin, and the Holly Drift team, which is Pat Good and Zach Poloff, Webb Travis last weekend at Ford Fest, Drift Sessions with Ben and Tim and Paul and Diana. I've got the guys that the additional team for LS Fest was Noah and Michael and Dustin Millard. I could go on for hours, dude, but those are the people of the year for me, or a few of them at least, and some of the events you can catch me at. Hell yeah! So well, cool, brother. I sure appreciate you coming on. Dude, I appreciate you having me. This has been a phenomenal podcast. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. We got 3 hours and 21 minutes on the clock. I don't know if it'll probably be about 3 hours to hit YouTube, but cool. That's the longest one yet, dude. Not the first time I've done the longest. I'm a talker, dude. Oh, I hear you. I love drifting. I love it. I love this shit. Yeah. I love drifting. So, and I appreciate you having me. Of course. Anytime. Maybe we'll get you on to pressure somebody else or something.
Down. I'm always down to come back.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't forget, if you do want to be highlighted in the outro, go ahead and make that reel of your car. Again, one with the most likes at the end of the week gets highlighted. So jump on that. But that is it for this one. I really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next Sunday every week for another podcast. Peace. Hell yeah.
Cool.
Oh, what a vibe.
That was good.
Stacking way up to the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no feelings. I've been taking long flights from the Bay to Ibiza. Hit home runs, I'm a ball like Jeter. I just want fuck, then I leave her. I'm a young pop star, call the boy Justin Bieber. Got a little money if you want, I can teach her. Whole life a movie, you can watch it in theater.